CD 4.
He'd been angry with her after the interview with Sarah yesterday, told her she'd butted in, took over when he'd explicitly told her not to. But the thing is, when the DI had looked back at the tape, he was pleased with the dynamic, thought it had been deliberate, thought Sarah warmed better to Murphy because she's a woman. Murphy rather thinks that Sarah warmed better to her because she isn't a smarmy idiot like Ashby, rather than because of her sex, but she's refrained from voicing that opinion. "Suppose we better get on with it," Ashby says. She doesn't ask why he sounds so unenthusiastic. Although the DI sent them to have a look, they lost the chance to access a clean crime scene when they didn't notice it was a suspicious death right away, so it's unlikely they'll find anything groundbreaking. Ashby leads her through the gate to the left of the house and down the paved path towards the annex where Nicola lived. No need for them to knock at the front door. The Bronze team have already done that, told Fiona Gregory why they're here and secured the annex. They also found out that Fiona is here with her 2 daughters, but that Benjamin Gregory, the husband, is out. Murphy glances around the garden as she walks. She knows very little about gardening, given that she's usually based out in Bristol, sharing a flat with someone she met off Spare Room. But she finds it hard not to be awed by what she's seeing. She hadn't given much thought to the setup of the house or garden before they arrived, but if she had, she would have expected a perfectly mown lawn, a swing set or trampoline for the kids or something. There's none of that, though. Instead, it seems like something that belongs on the cover of Town and Country magazine, from the neat line of pear trees running down each side of the path to the pond in the corner, surrounded by lilies and other green plants she doesn't recognise. That little section alone, no doubt making the perfect home for frogs and insects. And then there's the rest of the L shape, out to the left, cordoned off by a gate for some reason. The wilder part, purples, pinks and yellows all jumping out at her, even this late in the year. Plants that seem very much to be doing their own thing, refusing to grow where they're supposed to. She finds she likes that, the idea that the garden might have its own mind, rebelling ever so slightly against its owner's wishes. "Sarah say anything useful?" Ashby asks, raising a hand to PC Franks, who's standing outside the annex. "No," Murphy sighs. "I thought she might be calling to tell us she realised what her mum phoned her about or something. Now, wouldn't that make life easier? Coincidental, though," she pushes, "that she wants to tell the daughter something right before she dies." It isn't a question, but Ashby answers it like it is. "Not really. People want to own up to all kinds of shit when they die, right? Clear their conscience in time for the pearly gates and all that. You saving up your secrets till your deathbed, then?" It's out of her mouth before she can think better of it, but he surprises her by answering. "Me? I've nothing to hide, an open book and all that. I'm sure you've figured that out by now." He delivers it so deadpan that Murphy laughs. She actually laughs, and though he doesn't join in, his expression definitely softens. They reach Franks, who seems to be standing guard outside the flat, the CSIs just finishing up their sweep of the inside. Franks's gaze lingers on her and she looks away. She always feels like she stands out here. It doesn't help that she's tall and not exactly slim, but it's mainly because literally every other person in the department that she's seen so far here is white, something far less noticeable in Bristol. "Anyone find anything?" Ashby asks. Franks shakes his head.
"They've tested the whole house, focused on the kitchen. No sign of poison, no sign of anything, really."
He rubs one hand across his neck.
"Though I suppose they could have cleared up any trace of anything. They've had enough time, right?"
Murphy's lips twitch despite herself. She can empathise with that. The eagerness, the desperation to prove yourself. She cocks her head. "They?" Franks is just as tall as her, taller maybe, but he still seems to be looking up at her when he answers.
"Whoever killed her."
He clears his throat.
I'm sorry if we'd got here sooner."
"Not your fault," Ashby assures him. Murphy glances at him, surprised again. She'd have thought he'd be all ready to blame someone else. Ashby looks at her with that slight eyebrow raise, like he knows what she's thinking, then sighs. "It's not our fault, I should say. They called the ambulance, not the police. There's no way we could have known there was anything suspicious until the report came in." Which, Murphy thinks, doesn't change the fact that Franks is right. There's been plenty of time to get rid of any evidence. Still, she knows what the DI would tell her, what Ashby would likely tell her, if they could hear her thoughts. She shouldn't dismiss it out of hand. There's always a chance they'll find a stray set of fingerprints or something, a suspect that shows up on the database. Though poison doesn't feel like a random killing. No, this was someone Nicola Gregory knew well. Someone who wanted her death to be painful. Someone who wanted to punish her. "I'm going to take a look around here," says Ashby. She's about to ask what she's supposed to do then, when he beats her to it. "You all right to go and talk to the wife?" She jolts in surprise. "Yes, of course." Franks looks between the two of them.
She's not letting us in, won't let us search the house. She hasn't wanted to talk to us at all since offering us a drink."
"That's why I'm sending Murphy and not going myself. She might do better talking to another woman." Murphy fights to keep her expression neutral. Yes, she wishes Ashby would let her do something because he thinks she'd be good at it, rather than because of her damn sex. But she's hardly going to argue when it means she gets the chance to talk to someone close to the victim. She leaves Ashby to the annex and heads back across the garden. Though this time it seems like the branches of the pear trees are reaching out to stop her, like they know where she's going and want to protect Fiona from the intrusion. From her. She snorts quietly as she heads through the side gate into the front door, pushing the thought aside as she rings the doorbell. More polite this way, rather than going to the back door. She flashes her best smile at the woman who answers the door. She has slippers on, brown, curly hair tied up in a loose bun on top of her head, a faint layer of foundation and black eyeliner that is smudged a little around the corners. "Fiona Gregory?" Murphy holds out her hand, tries not to let the nerves show in her voice. "I'm Detective Murphy. I was wondering if you'd mind answering a few questions?" "I've already spoken to one of you." "I know," Murphy says, keeping her smile in place. "And I'm sorry about that. This won't take long, I promise. Can I come in?" "I'd really rather you didn't." She steps outside the house onto the front porch as if to emphasize the point. "My daughters are inside and they're very upset at the moment, and my husband isn't here." None of these seem like justifiable excuses to Murphy, but she doesn't press. Not now, anyway. She doesn't want to make an enemy of this woman when they're only just starting on the investigation. She wonders why she's so adamant about it, though. Why it's so important that they don't see the inside of the house. "All right, Fiona, do you mind telling me how long Nicola had been living in your annex for?" "About a year. She moved in after her husband died. She couldn't afford her own place, so we offered to help her out." "Okay, thanks. You were with Nicola on the night she died, is that right?" Fiona's expression instantly turns wary. Damn. Maybe she's playing this wrong, going for the direct approach. "Yes," Fiona says evenly. "I was the one to call the ambulance." "Oh?" Murphy smiles again, but it seems to have no effect. "How long did it take for the ambulance to arrive, roughly?" Fiona frowns in thought, her wary expression dropping, and Murphy feels a spark of satisfaction. "I'm not sure. About half an hour?" "And how long was she ill for before you called the ambulance? Roughly, of course." Fiona pulls a hand through her hair, making the bun even messier, a few curls falling loose around her face. "I don't know. I mean, she'd been ill for a bit, you know. Well, I say ill, but really she was just going through the menopause and it seemed to be hitting her harder than some other people. And to be honest, she was making rather a big deal of it all and... She cuts herself off. Oh, I'm sorry. It still hasn't actually sunk in. What I mean is, it seemed like she was making a big deal of it. To me, anyway, given I'm also... Well, but of course, now it seems like she wasn't. I feel awful about that now. She glances over Murphy's shoulder and then back again. You said... They said it was poison that killed her. That's right, yes. So the fact that she was ill, that was because of the poison too? Murphy opens her hands in what she hopes is a conciliatory sort of gesture. We can't be absolutely sure at this stage. We're still collecting all the facts. But yes, it seems likely. Fiona nods slowly, her face paling. She certainly seems sincere in her shock. So, you said you were the one to call the ambulance? Murphy prompts. Yes. She blows out a breath. Yes. Ben, my husband, came to get me when he saw that she was so unwell, and I walked in, saw her in bed. She was so pale and clearly delirious. She clearly wasn't well, so I called the ambulance straight away. I work at Bristol Hospital, so... Fiona trails off. You're a nurse? Not a doctor. Murphy is fairly sure that if she were a doctor, she would have said so outright. It's something people are usually pretty proud of. No, I just do admin, but I spend enough time around sick people to know when it looks bad. She smiles, a little sadly, and Murphy nods. I live in Bristol, she says conversationally. Oh? Fiona doesn't sound in the slightest bit interested, but still asks, Where? Out near St. Paul's. Oh, I don't know that area well, I'm afraid. I mainly just see the roads and the hospital. Well, you're not missing much. She raises her hand to her hair, realises what she's doing, and drops it again. Fiona, Murphy says, sensing using her first name is the right call in this instance. I know this is a difficult time and must come as a bit of a shock to you. Fiona nods mutely. But we really want to find out who did this to Nicola, and I'm sure you do too. Can you think of anything at all, even if it doesn't seem significant to you, that might help us at this stage? I really don't know. This is all a bit much, you know? Murphy doesn't answer, just smiles encouragingly. What kind of thing are you looking for? Well, did anything happen to Nicola in the last few weeks? Do you know of anyone who might have wanted to hurt her? Did you see anything suspicious going on in the annex? She doesn't point out that, despite the big garden, Nicola was living practically on top of Fiona and her husband, that they perhaps should have noticed something was amiss. I don't know, she says again, but more slowly, thoughtful this time. You know she had a new boyfriend, Phil, she adds, without waiting for an answer. I'm not saying he would want to hurt her. He doted on her, actually. But I don't know, he was new on the scene, I suppose, and he... Go on, says Murphy, her fingertips tingling with anticipation. It's probably nothing, but he seemed like he was a little controlling at times. Look, I'll be honest, I tried to stay out of the way as much as possible. You know how it is, she adds quickly, as if she thinks she said something wrong. I didn't want to interfere with someone else's life, even if she did happen to be living right next to me. Sure, it's hard living this close to someone. In what way would you say Phil was controlling? Oh, little things, you know. Maybe I'm reading too much into it. He insisted on driving her everywhere, things like that. I'm sure it was just me not knowing the whole situation. She seems eager to contradict herself, to reassure Murphy that she's not pointing the finger at anyone, and Murphy knows not to push it right now. But still, it's a start. All right, Fiona, that's really helpful. She notices how Fiona seems worried by this sentiment, not relieved. Is there anything else you can think of? No, well, I don't know. It's such a little thing, but last week, God, it was only last week, Nicola got these flowers. They got delivered to my front door because the annex doesn't have its own postal address. Ben and I don't like the idea of someone walking through our garden, trampling on all the flowers, you know. Like Murphy's team are doing right now, no doubt. But anyway, she didn't seem pleased at all by it. Not like I would have been if someone had sent me a lovely bouquet like that. She seemed kind of spooked, actually. Spooked? I think so, yes. Not that I thought much of it at the time, but looking back... Do you know if she kept the flowers? I don't know. Sorry, it might be nothing. She was acting a bit oddly in general the last few weeks. Like I said, we all just thought she was struggling to come to terms with... well, the menopause. She flushes. All right, Murphy says, making a mental note to make sure they've double-checked the rubbish. Thanks so much for your time, Fiona. I know it can't be easy having people intruding like this. She wants to offer Fiona a card, tell her to call her if she thinks of anything, but she realises she hasn't got any damn cards with her. So stupid. So she has to settle with, give us a call at the station if you think of anything. I will do. Murphy turns to walk away, but stops when Fiona calls out behind her. Have you spoken to Sarah, Nicola's daughter? Is it odd that Fiona wouldn't already know that? Maybe not, Murphy considers. She doesn't know what kind of relationship they have after all. We have, yes. She doesn't add that Sarah was the one to come to them, doesn't want to call attention to it if Fiona doesn't already know. How did she... Is she okay? Genuine concern there, for sure. I think you'd be better talking to Sarah directly about that, she says, as gently as she can. Fiona nods. It's just so awful for Sarah. Tomorrow's the anniversary of her father's death. Did you know that? I didn't know, Murphy says carefully. And it's the kind of thing she should have known. The death of another Gregory. Could that be where Ashby knew the name from? Fiona's eyes are shining now, and Murphy has the distinct impression she's only just keeping it together. Maybe that's why she wouldn't let them in the house. She wasn't sure she could handle it alone. Murphy finds she hopes that's the case, though she knows she shouldn't think like that. But she does. She hopes that this woman has nothing to do with Nicola's murder. Sarah was so cut up when her father died. She beat herself up for not being able to save him, and now I know she'll be thinking the same thing about Nicola. Perhaps that explains somewhat Sarah's chilly demeanour, her insistence that she be kept up to date with what's going on. Save her dad? Murphy asks, hating that she's on the back foot here, that she didn't just look into the name Gregory the moment Ashby mentioned it, rather than brushing it off, waiting for a more quiet moment. Silly for her to think like that, but you can't argue with grief now, can you? Of course, she couldn't have done anything to save him. She's going to have to ask. Christ, she's actually going to have to ask her something that she should already know. And why's that? How did he die? I mean... Fiona grimaces. Leukemia. He died of leukemia. Chapter 13. It's raining when I get to the church, but I don't bother with an umbrella as I lock my car behind me, flowers hanging loosely in one hand by my side. It's more a drizzle than a downpour, and I like the feel of it on my face, even as I shiver slightly, my leather jacket not really warm enough on an early October morning. But the rain is cleansing somehow, so I don't zip my jacket up all the way. They've found space for my mother here too, so she can lie next to Dad. But of course she's not here yet because I'm still waiting for the police to do their fucking job. Endless waiting, it seems like, until I'll be free of this. be allowed to return to some semblance of normality and get on with my life. There is one other person here in the graveyard, an old man, but I ignore him, keep my eyes downcast as I walk onto the grass, the soft ground giving way underneath me. I reach my dad's gravestone, speckled grey and white so that it looks like granite. My mother chose it. I would have picked something different, brighter, like the orange and black diagonally down from his, something that reflected his sunny personality. I imagine I'll get to pick the gravestone this time around. Not that it's any comfort. I glance at the black slab to my right where she'll be buried when the time comes. Her name is etched there, marking the spot for her. I know it's supposed to be so we can start grieving, can come here to lay flowers for her, but I don't like it. She's not here yet, so what's the point of it? I deliberately look away, crouching down in front of Dad's grave. I trace the C of his name with my index finger. The stone isn't too cold today, and that's comforting, like it still possesses some of the warmth he had in life. A quiet warmth, which was all the more special because it wasn't obvious to just anyone. "Hi, Dad," I whisper. "How are you?" It's stupid, of course, the worst possible question, but it's a habit I've got into, so that I can convince myself that a part of him is still out there. I shift uncomfortably, too aware of the other man here, fumbling about with his flowers as he walks crookedly to wherever his loved one rests. I close my eyes. Only that's worse because I'm immediately back there in the moments before his death. The hospital room with its white, empty walls. My mother, tears streaming down her face on the opposite side of the bed. And Dad, in that horrible hospital gown which didn't hide his skeletal form, translucent skin. The blue eyes that I'd so often wished I'd inherited instead of the green I got stuck with were glazed. And his face still seemed twisted in pain, despite the fact the doctors had assured us that he couldn't feel it anymore. He'd fought so hard to stay with me. And it showed in the few grey hairs that still clung to his head, the protruding knuckles on his bony hands. He was still breathing. I remember that so clearly. The doctor told us that he was dead, but his chest was still moving. It was just the breath still left in him, the doctor said. Not that I would accept it. Not until all signs of life were gone. A year. 1 year ago today, I lost him. But it doesn't seem to get any easier. Initially, yes, the pain of it faded from a sharpness that made it difficult to breathe into something duller. But that dull throbbing was constant, until it merged into anger at how wrong it was that I should lose him that way. And it still hits me every time I come here, the realization that he's gone, that I'm missing a part of me that I'll never get back. Only now it's worse, because everyone is watching me as I go through all the same motions again, waiting to see if I will be strong enough to survive it this time. "Is she there with you?" I whisper. "Does it work like that?" I don't think it does, of course. I don't imagine my parents are really together, holding hands on some other plane, watching me. "I'm okay, you know," I murmur, just in case I'm wrong. Or I will be soon, I hope. Silly, isn't it, this need to reassure people who aren't here anymore that we're fine, that they shouldn't worry. I sigh. I have to do it enough with every single person I find myself with. I shouldn't have to do it here too. My legs are starting to cramp, so I grab the metal flower container and stand, emptying the old dregs of water. I haven't been in a couple of weeks, so of course no one else has been to lay flowers. Will it be the same for my mother? I wonder. Lots of people tend to visit at first. There's always an array of fresh flowers right in the aftermath. You can tell just by looking around the graveyard which people have passed away recently. But everyone forgets after a time. They move on, and the dead are forgotten. I swallow the burning lump in my throat and fill up the metal vase. I glance around me as I walk back to his grave. The old man has gone now. I wonder who he came to see, that his visit should be so fleeting. I slide the little pair of scissors out of my jacket pocket, the ones reserved for this purpose only, and cut the ends off the flower stems, then arrange them in the vase, shoving each one individually through the metal holes at the top. Because my legs can't sustain the crouch for much longer, I give in and fall back on my bum, not caring that the wetness of the grass seeps in through my jeans. I sit there, wrapping my arms around me, hot tears mingling with the cool rain on my face. "I still miss you, you know," I murmur. "I still wish there was something I could have done to save you." I bite my lip hard enough to taste blood and swallow it. I'm getting good at it now, holding my emotions in. When I whisper my next words, my voice is surprisingly even. I still feel guilty. And it's only here, alone in the damp graveyard, that I can say it out loud. Because if I tell anyone, they will jump to defend me, tell me that cancer is cruel and I can't possibly blame myself, and I know all that. Logically, I know it. But that doesn't stop me feeling like it's somehow my fault, like I should have been able to do something to save him, if only everyone had been honest with me about it all sooner. I'm not sure how long I sit there in silence, but it's long enough that I start to shiver more violently, that the rain has seeped not just through my jeans, but down my neck and through the sleeves of my jacket, so that my top underneath is damp. I get to my feet, my movements slow and clumsy, my gaze still fixed on his grave. Loving father and husband. So impersonal, so generic. I hate that. Empty, meaningless words that do nothing to tell the world what kind of person he was. He deserved better. I pick up the second bunch of flowers and fumble to take off the plastic, then lay them on the slab that will soon be my mother's grave. No metal vase for her, not yet. So they lie on top, white on black. Her name is there, but there's nothing else yet. Not until I decide what I want. I clench my fingers at my sides, the tips of them icy against my palms. I don't know what to say to her so soon after her death. It was always like this, I suppose. So much easier to talk to Dad than her. He was the one I talked to about everything, from problems at school and which university to pick, to money and career worries. I'm sure I used to try to talk to her too, but she was always too distracted and I learned not to. Then I never needed to because I had him. So I say nothing now either, though I have to grit my teeth against the need to scream. I'd hoped it would have passed by now, this anger, but it's still there, pulsing under my skin. Why haven't the police found something yet? I feel jittery, on edge with the waiting, like I've drunk too much coffee, but all the time my nerves never letting up. Angry tears threaten my eyes again, the heat of them at odds with the cold encasing me. Before someone can turn the corner by the church and see me screaming my head off, I turn away stiffly from my mum and dad, my back aching with the effort of being held so straight. It's as I'm walking down the gravel pathway that leads away from the church, through the crumbling part of the graveyard that no one uses anymore, that I see him. Ben, clutching a bunch of purple and pink flowers to his side. His eyes meet mine and he lurches forward like a puppet. It's all I can do not to jerk back. "Sarah," he says my name like a lifeline, though I can't possibly think why. "You're here." His gaze is far too intense on mine. I've never liked it, that intensity. I frown. The way he says it, It's like he timed it deliberately to try and see me. He'd know, of course, that I'd come today. I glanced down at the flowers in his hand. One bunch only. Who are they for? His brother or my mother? My money's on the latter, and it fills me with disgust that he can be so hypocritical like that. Coming to lay flowers for her on the anniversary of her husband's death. Her husband, who also happened to be his older brother, who looked out for him his whole life, even when Ben didn't need or deserve it. But then Ben never did get the boundaries as far as my mother was concerned. He's looking at me almost longingly, waiting for me to acknowledge him. His eyes are red-rimmed, his face taut. He looks like he hasn't showered in a few days, and his shirt isn't ironed. I want to cringe back from him, looking like that. He doesn't have the right to be in this much pain. That should be for me alone. Sarah, I don't know what to say. I roll my shoulders, try to get rid of what's bubbling inside me. I wonder how long I can keep crushing down all this emotion until it takes me over. There's not much you can say, or do. I need to do something. Your mum would have wanted me to be here for you, to look after you. He might be right about that. Doesn't change how I feel, though. How? How are you supposed to look after me? He flinches, but there's something else in his expression too, a slight flash in his eyes, and I know he's bitter about my scathing tone. He tries to hide it, that side of him, tries to pretend he's nothing but caring and charm, but I've seen it every now and then, the way he'd react around my mother sometimes, the way he'd glare when he thought no one was looking when my dad said something he didn't agree with, something that meant Ben didn't get his own way. I just thought it might be good for us to be together, to talk about it. We don't have to do this alone. He's not alone, though, is he? He has Fiona, who he seems to have forgotten about, yet again. Something hard is pressing down on my heart, and I know I need to get out of here. I didn't want this. I wasn't prepared to see him, to see anyone. I was supposed to be able to do that on my own terms when I was ready. She was murdered, Ben. My voice cracks around the word. Murdered. Don't you get that? That's not something you can just brush aside with cups of tea and reminiscing about good memories of her. I know that. I don't think you do. He's certainly not acting like it. What is he expecting from me here? My mother was poisoned just feet from where he lives. She died in the annex he owns, and he was amongst those who watched it happen. But for some reason, he still thinks that I'd want to speak to him. I can't talk about it. I insist. Not yet. Not with you. Please, just let me deal with this on my own for now. I walk past him, half expecting him to make a grab for me. Sarah, I know your father and I were never related, but he was more of a brother to me than the half-siblings I have, those related by blood. I keep walking, back to him. I don't want to hear it. Especially don't want to hear him talk about my dad. The hypocrisy of him saying that when he's here to see my mother. His voice becomes more insistent. What I'm trying to say, Sarah, is that no matter what our genes say, you're my niece. I spin around to face him. I know that. I snap. First Fiona, now him. We're family. Like I don't already know that. But family can only take you so far when something like this happens. I take a slow breath. In for 3, out for 3. I know, I say, just a little more gently, but I still need some time. And with that, I turn my back on him and leave him standing there alone. Chapter 14. Murphy wishes she'd worn a different shirt. This thick, pale blue one is too hot in the crowded office, and she's on edge enough as it is, at her first murder briefing, without feeling like she's in a bloody sauna. She shifts, knocks shoulders with one of the intels on loan from Bath, and grimaces her apology. There aren't actually that many people in here, but in an office this small, it doesn't take much to make a crowd. "All right then," says D.I. James from behind his desk. He's leaning back in his faded red swivel chair, a big hole in the fabric obvious just by his left ear. "You'll all know why we're here. The Gregory murder is all over the local news, so we need to get onto it fast. What do we know, and where do we go now? Ashby." Ashby, hovering to the right of James's desk, clears his throat importantly, looks down at his notepad. "On the 2nd of October, 999 operators picked up a call from Fiona Gregory at St. Lawrence House. The ambulance response time was 23 minutes, but Nicola Gregory was pronounced dead at the scene. At the time, it was assumed to be natural causes, heart failure, so we didn't immediately get involved." A few nervous glances towards James at that, Ashby included. James just waves his hand for Ashby to carry on. The autopsy, however, revealed the cause of death was poison. Our pathologist hasn't yet been able to give us an exact poison, but found traces of... He double-checks his notes. Scopolamine and atropine in Nicola's system. There are blank looks around the office, and Murphy has to admit, had she not been present at the medical examination, she'd have no idea what to make of this either. She'd thought she might be squeamish, seeing a body opened up like that for the first time, but found she was able to look at it clinically, listen to what the pathologist was saying rather than focus on the fact it was a human being lying there in front of her. Thank God. She'd have hated it if she'd had to hurl up her guts in front of Ashby. Translation? James prompts. Well, scopolamine and atropine are alkaloids and actually are used in trace amounts in some pharmaceutical drugs. Ironically, atropine can actually be used to treat poisoning in some cases. Here, though, Ashby carries on quickly, no doubt picking up on James's look of impatience. We think it indicates that the poison used was in the plant family Solanaceae. That's good then, says one of the two other DCs in the room. A tall, lean guy in his 20s, and the only DC here who was permanently based out here in the sticks. Don't we already know what the poison is? Ashby rubs the back of his neck with a hand not clutching his notepad. Yeah, well, sort of. There are 2,700 species of Solanaceae. A low whistle from one of the intels. Not all of these are poisonous. I doubt she died from eating too many tomatoes, for instance. He smiles, but everyone just looks a little confused, not getting the reference that tomatoes belong to that plant family. Murphy only gets it because she was with him when the pathologist explained. Anyway, a lot of them contain alkaloids and are poisonous, so... We need to narrow it down, James states, as if they didn't already know that. We're on it, Ashby assures him. Do we know how it got into her system? This again from the lean DC. Thomas, she thinks his name is. Murphy bristles, glances at Ashby, then James. She knows the answer to this already, but wonders if she's supposed to be asking things out loud here, just to prove she's thinking. As it's a plant, contact with skin or ingesting it are most likely, and as we found traces of it in her gut, we're assuming the latter. Well, that's a start, mutters James. And no chance it was accidental? Murphy imagines he'd like that. It would mean they wouldn't have to explain to the town why they let it slip through the net to begin with. Very doubtful. Victoria, our pathologist, found effects on the body that suggest Nicola was being poisoned systematically over a number of weeks, though we can't be certain of the exact time frame. The fact that it was a gradual effort rather than one big hit seems backed up by two different sources. Both Sarah Gregory, Nicola's daughter, and Fiona Gregory, her sister-in-law, mentioned that Nicola wasn't feeling well in the run-up to her death, which was likely the poison taking effect. So it seems unlikely that she just took one dose by accident. Added to that, our forensic teams have found no trace of poison at her annex, so... He glances around the room, waiting. Why didn't anyone notice then, if someone was feeding her poison all this time? Murphy really wishes this other DC would stop with the questions. From what we've got so far, it sounds like she was going through the menopause, and her symptoms were put down to that. Murphy jumps in. So the killer might have known she was going through it, known that some of the symptoms might be masked. Instead of looking pleased or impressed by her observation, Ashby frowns. Could be, yes. Murphy tries not to feel put out, tries not to second-guess what he's thinking, and fails, of course. So, am I right in thinking, James says in his measured tone of voice, that we don't have a time for when the last dose of poison that actually killed her was administered, if it was a gradual affair? Unfortunately, yes, that's right, Ashby says. There was likely a larger dose of poison given to her on the day she died, but with the build-up in her system, it makes it very hard to tell when. Victoria is working on it, and once we can narrow down the poison, that should help us gauge how much was needed to kill her and how fast-acting it was. It would help, Murphy muses, if they could actually talk to the victim herself, find out exactly what symptoms she was experiencing. That would make it a hell of a lot easier to narrow down. Ashby looks down at his notes again, ploughs on before anyone else can interrupt. On the day she died, Nicholas stayed home from work, presumably because she wasn't feeling well. The poison may have been upped the night before or the morning of to make her feel markedly more ill. We're still working to make sure we know her exact movements that day, but we do know that Fiona, her husband, Nicola's brother-in-law, Benjamin Gregory, and Nicola's boyfriend, Philip Daly, were all with Nicola when she died. Sarah visited the house earlier that day but didn't go into the annex. A colleague of Nicola's, he skims the page, Mary Webster, also visited Nicola that day. James picks up a stray pen on his desk and twirls it in his fingers. We've ruled out suicide, correct? We believe so, yes. Nicola visited the doctor, seemed to be asking for help with her symptoms. As I've said, this was a drawn-out process, giving her a lot of pain over a prolonged period of time. Seems a highly unlikely method of suicide. Someone needs to get on to this doctor, find out more about the visit, James says. I'll do it, Murphy says immediately, and is relieved when James gives her a curt nod. So, what's been done so far? James looks expectantly at Ashby. Murphy is a little pleased to see him shifting uncomfortably. He should know how it feels. He makes her feel that way often enough. Forensics found nothing at the house. Nicola's annex, that is. Fiona wouldn't let us in to search her house, and we didn't push. We didn't feel we had enough to get a warrant at this stage. And even if we could get one, we don't want to make them on edge this soon. They've had plenty of time to hide the evidence, after all. James gives an approving nod, and Ashby stands a bit straighter. We've spoken to the daughter. A message on her phone prompted her to come into the station. And isn't it embarrassing, Murphy thinks, that she was the first to notice something was up? And on the back of Murphy speaking to Fiona, we found some flowers in Nicola's rubbish. Murphy feels a tiny bit smug at the mention of her contribution. Flowers? Prompts James. With a card and a note. Soon. Soon? Asks Thomas again. Murphy resists the urge to scowl at him. She'd be doing the same if she were him, but it's her case. She doesn't want to lose that. That's what the card says. Just soon. A general muttering goes round the room in a wave. Do we know who sent the flowers? James asks. Sadly not. The card has no branding, and though the flowers are in plastic, there are no stickers or anything, so we can't be sure where they were bought. We're looking into it. Good, James says mildly. Ashby clears his throat. Murphy, why don't you run through where we're at with the suspects? Murphy reaches for her hair, stops herself. Is he trying to show her up, teach her a lesson, by calling on her out of the blue like this? He jerks his head for her to get on with it. She suddenly feels very unsure about what to do with her hands. Well, we've got Sarah Gregory, she says a little too quickly. The daughter. There's a snort of disbelief from that bloody Thomas. Just because she came to us doesn't mean we can rule her out, she says, echoing Ashby, who nods. Fiona and Ben, obviously, as they both lived on the same site as Nicola, could easily have accessed her food or drink, and both were present when she died. Then there's her boyfriend, Phil. He was also there that day, and Fiona mentioned that she thought he seemed controlling at times. It was a relatively new relationship, so that could make sense, timing-wise. She's not sure why she's trying to justify herself. She's not supposed to know who did it yet. The echo of that DC's snort still sounds in her brain. He's got even less experience than her. She's sure of it. Otherwise, why call her in? He shouldn't be trying to make her feel stupid. I think that's it. She hates how she makes it into a question. They're the main ones, Ashby agrees, and Murphy lets out a silent breath. We can't rule out the work colleague either at this stage, but it feels to me more personal than that. He glances at James. Just a hunch, though. James sets down his pen. He's been twirling it this entire time. Nothing wrong with a good hunch, but cover the bases. Check whether she ate at work, whether she could have been poisoned there. Ashby nods. Of course. 4's a good start, though, James muses, and all would have the opportunity to get into Nicola's home, sneak in the poison. So who are we starting with? We need to look into this boyfriend, says Ashby, and Murphy finds herself nodding along with him. We can't ignore what Fiona said, and love, or sex, is always a pretty big motivator. Isn't that a bit obvious, assuming it's a boyfriend? Okay, she definitely wouldn't do that in his situation. Who does this guy think he is? James simply shrugs. Just because something is obvious doesn't mean it's not right. Chapter 15. I'm sitting on a high stool at the little round table in my kitchen, a glass of cheap white wine in my hand as I watch Nika cook, and try not to wince as the sauce spills out of the saucepan, splattering red both on the hob and the white tiles behind it. Obviously, she's just trying to be nice, and she's the one person I actually want to be around right now, so I let her do it. But I'd still rather I was the one cooking, if only because I wouldn't make such a bloody mess. I take another sip of wine, enjoying the cool feel of it as it slides down my throat. I'm on my second glass and it tastes better now, less acidic. My head is already feeling a little woolly, my tongue just a bit thicker than normal. I'm grateful for it, for the way it dulls the edges of my frayed nerves. The buzzer for the flat goes, and Nika looks over at me, raising one plucked eyebrow. She's always been able to do that perfectly, both eyebrows acting independently of one another. It's something I've often envied. It gives her such a wider range of expressions than me. I start to push off my stool, but she waves a hand and unties her apron. I still think it's both adorable and ridiculous that she wears an apron to cook. It doesn't suit her at all. The pinstriped blue and white apron over clothes that, if not expensive, are still always on trend, and always ones that look brilliant on her slim frame and golden skin. You stay there, she says, walking through the kitchen to the corridor. I hear her buzz whoever it is inside. The pasta sauce she's going to the effort of making from scratch is bubbling over, and I clamber off my stool, the kitchen tiles cool on my bare feet, to turn down the hob. My fingers twitch at my sides, desperate to start cleaning around her cooking, and I've nearly given in to the urge when I hear the front door opening. Come in, says Nika, and she slams the door shut. We have to, otherwise it sticks. Thanks, Chick. I can't immediately place the other voice, and I'm frowning in concentration when Nika comes into the kitchen, followed by a fat woman with a rather sagging face wearing the most hideous mustard yellow dress that really doesn't suit her, only accentuating her bulk rather than hiding it. For a moment, I think she must be one of the neighbours and wish Nika had made up some excuse to send her away. "Hello, Sarah Chick, how are you?" It hits me then, just in time, and I manage to arrange my face into some kind of recognition rather than an angry scowl. "Hi, Mary. I'm all right, thanks." I don't bother asking how she is back. I've learned over the last few days not to, that it seems to make people all flustered, that they don't want to say they're fine when clearly I'm not, whatever I say. I wonder how long it will take before everyone stops treading so carefully around me, before I can have a normal conversation. Probably not long. People tend to forget someone else's misery relatively quickly, too tied up in their own lives. "Well, I just came round to see how you are and, well, I brought some biscuits." She holds up a clear Tupperware with a blue lid. "Ginger and chocolate. Nicola always liked them when we had them in the shop. I don't know if—" "That's so nice of you, thank you." It's easier to make my voice sound grateful with the wine swirling around my head. "I love ginger," I lie. I take the box from her, setting it down on the kitchen table. "We're just about to have dinner, but would you like to come through to the sitting room for a minute?" I shoot Nika a quick look, silently asking her not to invite Mary to stay for food. I'm not sure if she gets my meaning, but she doesn't say anything, just quietly puts the kettle on to boil for the pasta. Ingrained politeness makes me add, "Do you want a drink or anything?" Mary pushes her short hair away from her face. "Oh no, you're all right, Chick. I won't stay long." I wonder if she would have actually rather just dropped the biscuits and run, whether it's the same forced politeness driving me that's making her stay. Because it feels wrong to be drinking alcohol when she's not, I leave my wine where it is and lead Mary into our small but perfectly comfortable living room. The flat was unfurnished when I put the rental deposit down, but the landlord agreed to buy basic furniture and I got to pick, so the place feels like mine even though it's not. Mary's weight makes the laminate floorboards creak as she follows me and then settles herself heavily onto the smaller of the two black fake leather sofas. Nika hates them, thinks they're too sticky, that they look tacky, but I think they're perfect, complementing the minimalist look I've gone for. There's silence for a moment, and I swear I can see Mary's face contort as she tries to think of something to say. If I were being nice, I'd ask her something first, start up the inevitable small talk. But I'm too tired for that, and, all things considered, it's really she who should be making the effort. After what feels like several awkward minutes where the only sound is the clattering of pans in the kitchen, Mary eventually speaks, her chin's wobbling as she does. "Well, Sarah Chick, I just came round to see how you were, see if there's anything I can do." I hate that, the non-question, the fact that it forces me to repeat what I've been saying over and over again already. So I don't bother to hide the stiffness in my voice as I say, "I'm fine, Mary, and there's really nothing you can do. There's nothing anyone can do except the police." The police? Honestly, her eyes actually widen. "Yes," I say slowly. "It's a murder investigation, Mary." She makes a sort of spluttering, gulping noise, and I'm glad I didn't give her anything to drink. She probably would have spilled it. "Now, murder. I know what everyone's saying, but you don't think so, do you, Chick? It's awful. Not saying it's not, of course not. But sure, it must just have been a terrible accident, or the like, no?" I narrow my eyes. "Oh, really? And how would you know?" She visibly flinches, but I don't have a spark of sympathy. Who is she, this woman I barely know, who had some meaningless place in my mother's life, to come in and say all this, to try and convince me I know less about my mother's death than she does? She seems to pick up on what I'm thinking because she flushes, the veins in her cheeks turning redder. "I didn't mean, I just... Who would want to do something like that?" I can see her biting down on some emotion that wants to flood her face. Maybe she wants to cry, but she doesn't want to do so in front of me. As she bloody well shouldn't. I'm dealing with my own crap right now. I shouldn't have to comfort her too. That's what the police are trying to figure out, I say. She sits there, staring at me, her lips parted. I meet that stare head on, daring her to contradict me again. I'm being overly rude, I know it, even if I do think it's entitled. But I'm about to give in and ask her how everything is at work, just to make her feel better, when my phone buzzes in the back pocket of my black jeans. My heart jumps a little as I fumble to get it out, thinking it might be the police, that maybe they found something. But it's not, and my mouth tightens into a thin line when I look at the caller ID. He just won't give up, will he? Do you need to get that, chick? Her voice is overly hesitant, like she's worried about setting me off again. I shake my head and press the reject button. No doubt he'll leave a message, where it will sit, along with those from the many other so-called well-wishers. Mary is watching me, and I pause before speaking, weighing up the value of explaining versus us just sitting in awkward silence. It was Ben, I say on a sigh. You know, my uncle, or step-uncle, I suppose, I mutter as an afterthought. Oh yes, I know Ben, Mary says, smiling now, something like warmth coming into her voice. No doubt Ben has turned his charm on her at some point. She's the type to fall for it instantly. How's he doing? She leans forward on the sofa, the fake leather creaking with her effort. He's fine, I say shortly. I pull a hand through my hair, make myself carry on. We're all just, we're all coping. I fight to keep my face even, but I feel twitchy now, talking about this, like there's a surge of caffeine in my veins, even though I've been careful to stay off it recently. I wish I'd brought my wine in with me. I can only imagine, says Mary. Murder, gosh. She catches my eye, then looks away quickly. But, sorry, I shouldn't talk about it, not when it must be so hard for you all. And Ben, he and Nicola were close, weren't they? Even after your dad. She trails off, biting her lip, the realization of what she's saying clearly washing over her. A fierce stinging starts up in the back of my eyes, and I blink viciously against it. Yeah, they were close, I say, and know that my voice is just a touch too sharp, the emotion inside me needing to come out somehow. But I don't want to talk to him right now. Which he just doesn't seem to get, no matter how many times I hammer it home. Well, no one can say he's not persistent. Oh well, that's fair enough, I'd say, chick. I'm sure he'll understand. We all deal with grief in our own ways. She says it like she's being overly wise, like she's saying something I haven't heard over and over already. She has no idea what I'm going through, none at all. But she's still got such a horrible, all-knowing expression on her face, and I can't fucking stand it. And that's partly why I let my next word slip out. Maybe, but he doesn't seem to get that, doesn't seem to get that I just want to be left alone. I put a hint of emphasis on it, and the sofa creaks again as she shifts uncomfortably. I'm sure he's just trying to help, chick, and sure, maybe it would help. It's not healthy to try and deal with it all alone. I want to point out that I'm not alone. I have Nika, but I don't think she'd get that. I don't want his help, I say flatly instead. Maybe he wants yours then. I reach my fingertips up to massage my temples, where an all-too-real headache is pressing against my skull. I don't think so. I think it's more that he wants to apologize to me, I say musingly, because he can't apologize to her anymore. What? What do you mean, chick? I don't know, I mumble, closing my eyes so I don't have to look at her. There was something weird going on between him and my mum, I think. I walked in on them the other day and she was all upset, like they'd been arguing or something. I open my eyes, fix them on her. It's bad enough that she was ill. She didn't need him making things worse. Are you saying you blame him? She'd love that, wouldn't she? Love to go around telling everyone that I blame my uncle for my mother's death. No, I don't blame him. I just don't want to talk to him yet. She purses her lips, and I can almost see the cogs in her brain turning. But you saw them arguing? Why won't she just go away? Yes, but they were close, like you said. They were allowed to have an argument every now and then. She looks a bit taken aback by the abrupt change in my voice, the fact that I'm now leaping to his defence. I grit my teeth. I'm probably not handling this the right way, but it's just so bloody hard to think through this headache. I wonder briefly if this is how my mother felt in the days leading up to her death, with the poison swirling around her system. Thankfully, Nika chooses that moment to appear in the doorway, apron tied around her once again. Sorry to interrupt, but dinner's nearly ready. I nod and stand up, my legs heavy. Mary gets to her feet too, though it takes her a fair amount of effort. I'll leave then, Chick. Let you have your tea. I force my face into a small smile, muscles aching with the effort. I lead her to the doorway and pull the front door open, letting in a wave of cool, slightly smelly air from the corridor.
End of CD 4. CD 5.
Thanks for stopping by. Of course, Mary says, her tone full of false brightness. And you need anything, you call me, okay? Do you have my number in case? I think so. I lie, knowing full well that I don't have it, that I wouldn't be calling her even if I did. Mum gave it to me. Okay then, and you'll let me know when the funeral is? I jolt slightly. Of course I knew vaguely, the way everyone does, that there would need to be a funeral, that I would need to organise it, but I haven't really thought about it in much more detail than that yet. I push the thought aside. I'll deal with it after, when the police have done their job. Her body won't be released until then anyway. No point in thinking about it now. I will, absolutely. Okay then, she says again. She leans in to give me an awkward one-armed hug and kiss on the cheek, then waddles off down the fluorescent-lit corridor towards the lift. I shut the door behind me and head to the kitchen, where Nika is dishing up slightly overcooked-looking pasta into 2 bowls. I pick up the glass of wine I'd left on the table and gulp down the contents gratefully. Nika opens the fridge and fills my glass wordlessly. God, I'm so genuinely thankful for Nika right now. How bloody lucky that she came to look round the flat 2 years ago and I didn't get lumbered with one of the other 2 idiots I've been deciding between. I can count the genuine friends I've had over the course of my entire life on one hand. I can't quite believe that I now get to live with one of them. In primary school, it used to bother me that I didn't have loads of friends. It was my dad who got me through that, who sat me down one day when I was crying and made me realise it didn't matter how many friends I had, as long as the people I did have were those I genuinely liked. And he was right. Most people just annoy me. They're all so fake, saying one thing and meaning another. That was another reason I got on so well with Dad. He understood. He preferred his own company too. He never made me feel like I should be going to all the parties, trying to make new friends, not like Mum did. But I have to admit, I'm grateful that I'm not alone right now, that I have someone to lean on. Are you okay? Nika asks. Not really, I answer honestly. She comes over, puts her arms around me for a gentle hug. Just trying to keep your neck up? My lips twitch. Keep my head up, I correct, though I know she knows full well she's wrong, is only doing it to try and make me laugh. Well, you need to keep your neck up in order to keep your head up, really, I snort. I heard what you said to Mary about your mum and Ben arguing, she says, a little hesitantly. It wasn't really an argument so much as a conversation. Another pause. Do you really think it's nothing? I draw myself up and look at her, her gorgeous brown eyes meeting mine. I'm not sure, I say slowly. But I'm not going to tell the police anything until I am. Taken from case file, Nicola Gregory. Mary Catherine Webster. Extract from recorded interview. Date: 7th of the 10th, 2018. Duration: 37 minutes. Conducted by officers D.C. Murphy and D.S. Ashby. D.C. Okay, great, and like I said, thanks for coming in to see us, Mrs. Webster, and agreeing to give us an interview. Can you start by telling us, for the sake of the voice recorder, how you knew Nicola? M.W. We worked at the shop together, or she worked for me, I should say. I own it. The little village shop out by the Anchor, the pub, like Baubles. Maybe you know it. D.S. I know the one. Lovely selection of cakes. M.W. Sure, I like to think so. D.C. I'll have to check it out while I'm here. M.W. Sure, that'd be lovely. I'll save you a slice of Victoria sponge. D.C. I look forward to it. So you worked with Nicola. Were you close? M.W. Well, I suppose that depends on what you mean by close. We got on, yes. I'm sure we'd go for the odd drink on occasion. I'm not saying we were the best of friends like, but I knew her pretty well, I'd say. Hard to work with someone most days for 2 years and not know them well. D.C. So Nicola started working at the shop 2 years ago? M.W. That's right, chick. They needed the extra money, you see. Her husband, Charlie, was getting ill, terrible thing, cancer, and had to cut back on his hours. He was in sales, did very well, I think, but he couldn't keep it up, poor guy. So Nicola came to the shop asking for work, and of course I said yes. Did what I could to help. D.S. Mrs. Webster, how would you say Nicola seemed over the last few weeks, months, perhaps? M.W. How did she seem? Not really sure how to answer that, chick. D.S. Was she her usual self? Did she seem happy? Well. M.W. Happy? Don't know about that. Sure, she was a bit better recently, but her husband died coming on for a year ago. You don't go through something like that, losing a loved one slowly like that, and come out of it the same, now do you? D.C. Of course not. It's a terrible thing, losing someone that way. Understandable if she was still coming to terms with grief. But apart from that, did she seem healthy? M.W. Well, she was getting a bit confused, a bit withdrawn at times. She's always been efficient at work, but she was tiring a bit more. Sure, it's normal, I'd say, as we get older, isn't it? I told her, as I'll tell you, the menopause was awful for me. I was terribly forgetful, couldn't go anywhere without a hot flush taking me over. D.S. So you didn't think her behaviour was anything out of the ordinary? M.W. Can't say that I did, no, chick. D.S. All right, thanks. Now, it would really help us if we could get a sense of Nicola's rough schedule at work. How often did she work at the shop? M.W. Every Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, from open to close, and every Saturday morning, and she'd always cover the extra shift if I needed her to, like. D.S. Okay, great. And what did she tend to do for lunch while she was working? M.W. For lunch? Well, it varied. She usually brought in her own stuff, leftovers and that. A stickler for waste, Nicola. D.C. And where would she store her lunch? M.W. I have a little fridge in the back room just for staff. D.C. And is it just you and Nicola who have access to this fridge? M.W. And Stella, the other girl who works for me. Though her and Nicola were never on the same shift. Can't afford to have 3 of us working together these days. D.S. What about coffees, teas? Did she make drinks at work often? M.W. Well, she drank a lot of tea, I suppose. And sure, we'd have a cuppa together every now and then with some cake when it was quiet. And I tell you, it's quieter these days than when I first set up. She didn't really drink coffee. Hated the stuff. Not that I suppose that helps you. Apart from when Phil brought her coffee, that is. She drank a bit of the ones he brought usually, so as not to offend him. Silliness, if you ask me, pretending to like something for a man. Women our age should be long past that. D.C. Phil, that's her boyfriend? M.W. That's right. She jumped into that relationship about 6 months ago now, I'd say. Desperate to be with someone from the looks of things, not that I judge. But some people just don't know how to be alone now, do they? D.C. You said Phil would bring her coffee to work? M.W. Sure, chick. Isn't that what I just said? She told him she didn't like it and all, at first anyway, but then just went along with it. Like I say, I shouldn't judge even if it's silly, a woman her age, pretending to like something she doesn't. But it must be hard, losing your husband the way she lost her Charlie, and then trying to get back out on the market at her age. And sure, Phil's a looker, I'll give her that. D.C. And how often would you say he brought her coffee? M.W. I don't know. Can't say that I kept track. But it was every now and then. He liked to pop in, catch up with her while she was at work. D.S. And how did Nicola feel about these visits? Was she happy to see him? M.W. Well, I think she found it all a bit romantic. D.S. Mrs. Webster, how would you describe her relationship with Phil? M.W. I barely knew him, if I'm honest, chick. Made myself scarce when he was in the shop. Don't like to eavesdrop, you know. And apart from that, I only saw him when he was dropping her off or picking her up. He liked to do that a lot. Keen to look after a woman, from what Nicola said of him. And sure, she needed that, after all that's happened to her. But I'm not the best person to speak to if you want to know more about their relationship. Nicola wasn't the type to overshare. D.S. All right, thanks. Now, Mrs. Webster, you visited Nicola on the day she died, is that right? M.W. I popped in to check how she was doing, brought her some soup, yes. D.C. You brought her soup? M.W. I did, yes. Thought it might make her feel a bit better. D.S. And what time would you say you left Nicola? M.W. Oh, I don't know, maybe 8 a.m., something like that. Early, like. Needed to get to the shop, open up. D.S. And how did she seem when you left her? M.W. Well, sure she was ill, definitely ill. She thought she had the flu, but wouldn't phone the doctor, silly thing. But I tell you, I never thought it was anything worse. And of course I keep wondering now if I should have noticed. I can't tell you how awful I feel about it, to see her on the day it happened, like, and not have done anything about it. D.S. You couldn't have known. M.W. Sure, you're right. I couldn't have. Not that it helps poor Nicola. D.C. And why did you go round that day? It was a Tuesday, one of her working days. Had she called in to tell you she wouldn't be there? M.W. She texted, yes, and I just wanted to check she was all right. D.S. That's the only reason you went round? M.W. Yes. D.S. Are you sure? M.W. Yes. D.S. Mrs. M.W. Oh, look. Okay, I don't want you thinking anything more of this, you hear me? I only haven't said anything because I feel terrible about it myself, and I don't want you two judging me like. D.S. Whatever it is, I'm sure we've heard worse. M.W. Laughter. Sure, you're probably right about that. Now, Nicola was a lovely woman, very kind. And like I said, she'd been through a lot, so you can understand it, really. D.C. Understand what, exactly? M.W. Well, just over a year ago, right when Charlie was at his worst, before he passed, some money went missing out the cash register. I'm very careful with it in my shop, you know. Sure, didn't I tell you that business hasn't been great recently? D.S. Are you saying that Nicola took some money? M.W. She did, yes, and she owned up to it straight away when I asked her, paid it all back, and that was that. Sure, she hadn't meant anything by it, had meant to return it before I noticed. She just needed to get her hair done, and they were struggling a bit by this point. Charlie wasn't working at all, of course. Anyway, look, I'd thought some money went missing the other day, right before she died, and I went round that day to ask her about it. D.C. And had she taken the money? M.W. Well, no, she said she hadn't, and I'll be honest here, bit embarrassing like, but I think it was actually me miscounting and jumping to the worst conclusion. You know how it is. D.S. Sure, it happens. So you went round, accused her of... M.W. Sure. Accused is a bit harsh. D.S. Sorry, asked her if she'd taken the money. She said no, and that was it. M.W. Well, now, here's the thing. She was ill, like I said, all pale and shaky, so I didn't want to push it, but I also didn't want to let her get away with it. And there was a bit of cash sitting in the windowsill with her keys, so sure, I just... D.C. You took it. M.W. Now don't be looking at me like that, chick. Sure, hadn't she stolen from me before? I was just taking what was owed, and I'm sure Nicola would have understood it. But that's it, that's all there is to it, you understand? D.S. We understand, Mrs. Webster, and you've been really helpful. We'll give you a call if we... Yes? M.W. Well, now, I don't want you to be reading into this, you hear? But it would play on my mind if I didn't say anything, and Sarah won't. She's a good girl, wouldn't want to say anything to hurt her uncle. This is actually why I came here to see you today, but you wouldn't let me get to it right away. D.C. Get to what, Mrs. Webster? M.W. All it is I heard, and that's all it was. I didn't say it myself, you understand? D.C. We completely understand, Mrs. Webster. M.W. Well, like I said, I heard that Nicola and Ben had a bit of an argument or something recently. It might not be anything, sure it's probably not in fact, but I want my conscience clear. Thought I should make sure someone said something, and it's easier as I'm not family. D.C. Ben, that's Nicola's brother-in-law. M.W. That's the one, yes. D.S. And you know anything more about the argument? M.W. Afraid not, chick. D.S. All right. Thank you, Mrs. Webster. We'll look into it. Chapter 16. Detectives, how can I help you? The doctor is younger than Murphy expected, with horn-rimmed glasses and floppy brown hair. He flashes her a smile, and she gets the impression he's used that smile to charm his way out of a few situations before. He adopts a more respectful expression when he nods at Ashby, no doubt because he's a man, and Murphy decides then and there that she doesn't like him. We've come to ask you about one of your patients, Ashby says, taking a seat opposite Dr. Williams' desk without waiting for it to be offered. Murphy chooses to stay standing, making the most of her height for once. Oh? Dr. Williams raises his eyebrows in an expression of polite interest. but Murphy can tell from the way his eyes flicker away from them that he already knows. "Nicola Gregory," Murphy says anyway. "Do you remember her?" "Well, He clears his throat. "Yes, I saw her a few weeks ago, yes." "Are you aware that she's since been murdered, and that cause of death was poison?" Yes, I read about it in the news, yes. And it's a terrible, terrible thing. But you can't... the paramedics didn't notice it was anything out of the ordinary when she died, did they? That's why you took a few days to discover it was murder." The bloody local newspaper, Murphy thinks. It's far, far worse than the national press, investing way more time in a story like this. It means everyone knows everything about the case almost before they do. "That's right, yes, but..." Dr. Williams cuts Ashby off. "So you can't expect me to have noticed anything out of the ordinary, can you? If they didn't when she actually died." A little on the defensive, isn't he? "We're just trying to find out a bit more about her symptoms, Dr. Williams, that's all," says Ashby calmly. "No one is blaming you." But maybe they should be, thinks Murphy. She hopes it doesn't show on her face, though. Ashby is right to take the soft line, she knows. They want his help, not to get his back up. "Oh," he says, visibly relaxing. "Her symptoms." "Yes. What did she come in here for? What was she complaining of?" "Well, she was experiencing a few things. Headaches, stomach cramps, hot flushes. All normal symptoms around the time of the menopause," he adds quickly, clearly trying to reassure them that he shouldn't have noticed any sign that something was quite severely wrong. This is what Nicola experienced, Murphy realises. This lack of attention, the eagerness to find an easy solution, the willingness to brush everything aside and blame it all on women's problems. She's literally walking in the dead woman's shoes, and for the first time on the case, she feels a shiver run down her spine. Because it's only now that she's actually thinking of Nicola as a real person, not just as a way for her to prove herself. As a woman who tried to get help and was ignored, whose pain was too easily dismissed. She feels the sadness of that, striking her right in her stomach. She wonders how the murderer felt when Nicola came to see the doctor. They've already established that the murderer was close to Nicola, saw her regularly enough to sneak the poison into her food and drink. They wanted to be close by, to see her deterioration, to know the poison was working. So they must have known that she'd been to the doctor's, surely. Were they worried about that? Worried the doctor might find something? Did they try to stop her going? "So you told Nicola her symptoms were down to the menopause, is that right?" Ashby's voice pulls her back to the room. "Well, look, a woman her age, what would you think?" Murphy notices how he directs his question to Ashby alone. "I also thought she might be experiencing a bit of depression." "Is that so? What made you think that?" "Well, the difficulty sleeping. The fact that in her notes it said she'd suffered with depression before." Murphy frowns. This is new to them. She'd suffered from depression in the past. Dr. Williams flushes. "Well, she said she hadn't, but it was in her notes that it could be a factor." Murphy fights to keep her expression even. So once again, Nicola's own feelings were ignored. She's behind Ashby, but she wishes she were next to him so she could see his expression, gauge what he's thinking. "It's a big biological change," Dr. Williams insists. "It would be normal for Nicola to have experienced mood swings, changes in behaviour, and that could have been made worse if she had, depressive tendencies." "Was there anything else that indicated she could have been depressed?" Murphy asks. "Did she say anything? Complain about feeling down? Show any other clinical signs?" Dr. Williams glances at his screen again, though it's too fleeting for him to be legitimately checking anything. "Well, no, not exactly. But she'd also suffered a great loss recently. Her husband, I don't know if you... We know about that, yes," Murphy says shortly, and the doctor's face falls. She imagines he'd have preferred to be the one to tell them, to direct attention away from the array of mistakes he clearly made with Nicola. "All right," says Ashby, his voice much calmer than hers. "So, stomach cramps, headaches, hot flushes. You said she was also having trouble sleeping. Was there anything else?" He does actually click on his computer screen this time, and Murphy finds her disrespect for him increasing. If it were her, she'd have memorised Nicola's visit, gone over it in her head to see if there was anything she'd missed, so she didn't make the same mistake again. For God's sake, this woman was being poisoned and this idiot doctor failed to notice. But unless one of her family call him up on it, he won't face any charges. "Nausea," he says. She also complained of nausea. "And that's also a side effect of the menopause, is it?" Murphy asks. She can't help herself. She notices Ashby shift his weight, wonders if he's annoyed with her. "It can be," he says defensively. "It's less common, but it can be." "Okay," says Ashby in that same even voice. "What about hallucinations?" Dr. Williams frowns. "Hallucinations? No, she didn't say anything about that." Murphy feels a jolt of disappointment. The 3 main poisons they're looking into all tend to cause hallucinations. Constipation or diarrhea? Dizziness? Any vision problems? He's shaking his head now. No, none of that. Just what I've told you." "All right," Ashby says, standing. "Thanks, I think we have all we need. We'll need a printout of her medical record if that's okay." "Of course." He hands it over, then, as they're about to leave, says, "You mustn't think badly of me. You have no idea the number of patients we have to see in a day. The pressure we're under with the NHS these days." Right, Murphy thinks, like they don't understand pressure in their jobs. "Thanks for your time, Dr. Williams," is all Ashby says as they shut the door behind them. "Well?" Murphy asks, the moment they're in the car, away from where anyone can overhear them. "Doesn't hugely help us narrow down the poison, does it?" He rests his head back against the passenger seat. She was surprised by it at first, that he'd let her do the driving. She'd assumed, when she first met him, that he'd be the type to want to be in control of that, maybe not to trust her with the car. Headaches, nausea, hot flushes. Murphy taps her fingers against the steering wheel, not switching the car on yet. "All of that fits with our top 3, right? Belladonna, Jimsonweed, Mandrake. All part of the nightshade family. All deadly if taken in the right dose, but survivable in small quantities. People even take Jimsonweed as a drug in some places, from what her research has dug up." "No hallucinations," Ashby says. "But all 3 of them cause hallucinations." "Common in all," Ashby agrees. "But perhaps less common with Mandrake." "So you're leaning towards that?" "Maybe." He sighs, pinches the bridge of his nose between his thumb and forefinger. She knows how he feels. "She could just not have told the doctor. I wouldn't have, if he was the one I was talking to." "You're right," he says, surprising her. "Just because she didn't tell anyone doesn't mean she wasn't experiencing them. I still say we're looking at just 2, Mandrake or Belladonna. Jimsonweed is harder to grow here. I think our next point of call is finding out what types of food she ate, drinks, that kind of thing." Murphy nods, doesn't ask why. Belladonna is known for being sweet, Mandrake more bitter, so knowing her taste preferences might help them know how the poison was masked. Masked enough for her to keep consuming it over a number of weeks. "Do you know, I've been thinking," Ashby muses. "There are lots of ways to kill someone and make them suffer. So why poison specifically? Why plant poison?" She's not sure whether he actually wants her opinion or if he's just thinking out loud. She's less sure on him now than when they first met, is starting to think she read him a little wrong. She answers anyway. "Plants are easy to get your hands on, I suppose." He grunts, which he takes as agreement. And poison, well, it's less gruesome, isn't it? And the psychological impact is worse for the victim, not knowing what's wrong with you, especially when no one would believe her. Our killer can't have known no one would believe her. They took a guess, I suppose, that their menopause would hide it. Fiona and Mary both commented on it, didn't they? On the fact that she was ill or whatever, but that no one thought anything of it because it's something everyone goes through. Fiona, in particular, had seemed annoyed about it, Murphy remembers. Ah, yes, good old Mary Webster. Murphy wrinkles her nose. It wasn't ideal that Mary came to them before they were ready, but they still got quite a bit out of the interview yesterday. Are you thinking she had anything to do with it? No? Are you? It sounds genuine, the question. I don't know, she says slowly, trying to think objectively, to weigh it all up. Nicola could have been poisoned at work, I suppose, Mary adding it to her food or drink there, and brought the soup as the final dose. She could, Ashby concedes. Apart from the soup, we tested that, remember? No trace of poison. Oh yeah, right. Murphy taps her fingers on the steering wheel. There's still this thing with the money. Ashby just waits for her to reason it out. But I don't know, it all feels a bit dramatic, just to get back at her for nicking some money out of the register. And I mean, it can't have been much, can it? The second time around, she was taking what she was owed from Nicola's windowsill, and people don't tend to leave giant wads of cash lying around there. I'd say you were right about that. About it all or just the last part? Murphy isn't sure. So what would you do? Do? About Mary as a suspect. Well, get someone out to the shop, I guess. Check for any traces of those plants, at least rule it out. Great. Do that. Me? Sure. Just make sure you have them report their findings back to me too, okay? Sure. Yes, okay. Now I'm more interested in what Mary had to say about her other suspects. The argument with Ben? Another grunt. Think there's anything in it? I think we'd be idiots not to ask him, but right now I'm more concerned about the boyfriend. Controlling behaviour, didn't Fiona Gregory say? Murphy nods. And Mary has backed it up, picking her up, dropping her off. We know she had a car, right? A car is still sitting on the drive. Right, and he was always going to visit her and bring in her coffee, Murphy finishes, which could hide the taste of the mandrake as it's so bitter. Or, I suppose, the belladonna if she took it with loads of sugar. Exactly. And the flowers, Murphy muses, the note. We don't know for sure that has anything to do with it, he says evenly. I know. She waves an impatient hand in the air, then starts up the ignition. They still haven't been able to trace the flowers. She spoke to the local florist, who conceded that the now dried bunch of flowers could have been from the shop, but there was no record of Sarah, Phil, Ben, or Fiona having brought any flowers from there recently. So either the flowers were bought somewhere else entirely, or whoever bought them paid in cash, careful not to leave a trail. But she seemed spooked about them, Fiona said, and Murphy ploughs on, raising her voice a little. If it was a threat, a way to make her scared, which would fit with the killer's MO, you have to admit, then flowers are a very lover's thing to do. The eyebrows rise. This time she finds it less infuriating. A lover's thing to do? She flicks the indicator on. You know what I mean. Plus, she adds, a fizzing of excited energy firing up under her skin. I did my research this time around. He waits, and she smiles. There's something else you'll find interesting about Philip Daly. Chapter 17. I feel sick already. I glance at Nika, who is sitting in the chair next to me in the hospital waiting room. I have to admit her face is a little paler than usual, making her look a sort of yellow-brown. You'll be fine.
Honestly, it's no big deal, and you'll feel great afterwards, knowing you've done something to help someone."
"After I'm done feeling sick and shaky," she mumbles.
"Not everyone gets like that. I don't. If it was something horrible, I wouldn't be encouraging you to do it, I promise." I shoot her an encouraging smile. She doesn't return it, but I think her face regains some colour. I know this is something she'd never usually do. She gets squeamish at so much as a paper cut. She's only here to keep me company because I refused to cancel the appointment, even with everything going on. But I couldn't cancel. My dad died of leukemia, and there's a chance that if more people went to give blood, then he could have been saved. Or if not, he would have had just a little longer, and I would have had just a bit more time with him. Nika knows all this, of course. It's why she won't back out, no matter how sick she feels. 2 people come out of the blood donor room, a couple from what I can gather, and head to the refreshment area. Then the nurse comes out to call me, and she beams when she reads my name and glances around the room, her gaze quickly settling on my face. "Sarah, how are you? So lovely to see you." I walk over to her, and she grasps my hand in greeting. "Hi, Helen." I smile, glad it's her this time. I like her. She has a kind smile that fits her round face, and even though I've often seen dark circles under her eyes, she never sounds tired, is never anything other than incredibly friendly. My friend also has an appointment today, but it's her first time and she's a bit nervous. Can she come in with us? I gesture towards Nika, who gets uncertainly to her feet. Of course, not a problem." She turns her beam to Nika, whose face flickers into a brief smile. Helen has that effect, able to bring out a smile in even the grumpiest of people. Nika trails behind us into the donor room, and I see her balk when she spots the chair. "Maybe your friend should go first, says Helen, bustling about with something on the white counter. "That way it's over and done with. Sit on the chair, my love." Her voice is friendly but firm, and Nika obeys. Helen shoots me a wink, and I smile. "Now, can you just confirm your name, address, and date of birth for me?" She holds up a clipboard and runs her finger down it as Nika replies. "Lovely. Now, I'm just going to put this pressure cuff here on your arm to make it easier for us, okay?" Nika just nods. "Good girl," she says, sounding a little like she's talking to a well-behaved dog. While Helen fixes the cuff on Nika's arm, she looks over at me. "So, how are you, Sarah? You keeping well, are you?" "Oh, I'm fine," I say, shrugging. "You know, the normal." Nika raises one eyebrow at me. I give her a little shake of my head. Not that I think she'd actually say anything. I don't want to tell Helen about it all, though. Right now, I just want to pretend that none of it has happened, that my life is not in pieces, that this is just an average day for me. And because we're over in Bath, the nearest permanent donor centre, the news is unlikely to have reached Helen, so my family disaster will not be as big a piece of gossip as it is in our small town. Helen pumps some gel into her hands and rubs them together, the smell of antiseptic filling the room. "Now, I'm just going to clean your arm with this wipe, my love. It won't hurt. Nothing to worry about at all, as I'm sure Sarah's told you." I zone out, having heard all this before, and wander towards the window, staring out at the bleak hospital car park, the rows and rows of cars, evidence of how many people are ill right now. Nika sucks in a breath, and I glance over to see they've put the needle in. She has her eyes squeezed shut, forehead crinkling in the effort not to look at the blood. Helen pats her hand reassuringly. "Not long now." Unlike Nika, I can watch it, the blood seeping from her vein into the tube. It's calming, the way it flows through into the plastic, turning it from something devoid of colour to a deep red. I watch its steady progress to the clear plastic bag where it settles, seeming to swell to fit the space. Amazing, really, that this is all it takes, that this could be the difference between someone living and dying. "You sure you're all right, Sarah?" Helen whispers it, like Nika's asleep rather than just refusing to look, but I jolt anyway. The way she's looking at me, I wonder if she has heard after all, if perhaps my mother's death is not just the small-town gossip I thought it was. I haven't been paying attention to the national news, too lost in the hour-to-hour hell I'm living right now. Helen could have read it, could have made the connection. Or maybe I'm just quieter than usual. Maybe the constant tension I'm feeling is evident in the way I'm holding myself. I'm fine, I say. I know my voice is too stiff to be believable, but I don't want to talk about my mother. Not now. Not while it's all still going on. Not until the police have made an arrest and I can start to put it all behind me. I'm just thinking about my dad. Not a lie, given the fact that every time I come to give blood, I do it for him. Helen nods, her face the picture of empathy. She already knows about him. She was one of the nurses I told, feeling the need to explain, the first time, why I was here. Every time I'm here, I always wonder if there was something more I could have done. There wasn't. You know that, she says gently. You did everything you could. If your blood types were incompatible, it wouldn't make a difference how much you donated. I know this already. It's something I've been carrying around with me for the last year. The knowledge that, just because I was born with the wrong blood, I couldn't save him. His parents died when I was young, and he had no siblings. No real siblings, anyway. Ben tried, but wasn't a match either, and we had no luck finding a non-family donor. Not enough to go around, apparently. But you can make a difference to someone else, Helen says softly. You do, every time you step in here. Nika has her eyes open now, watching me, and it's that, the concern on her face, that makes my throat sting so much I have to look away. The agitator scale beeps and Helen claps her hands. All right then, that's you all done. How do you feel? I ask. She flinches a little as Helen removes the needle and her gaze stays fixed resolutely on me, rather than on the arm that Helen is now applying a plaster dressing to. Fine, I think. You did brilliantly, says Helen, smiling as she puts away the blood bag. And there's somebody out there who is going to be ever so grateful. Now, I'm going to do the same with Sarah, but rather than you sitting in here watching, why don't you head out to the refreshments, take a seat out there and have a warm drink and something to eat, Oh, okay. Nika glances at me and I nod encouragingly. Are you okay to stand? Helen asks, putting a hand under Nika's arm to support her. You tell me if you feel too faint, okay? Thanks, I'm okay, Nika says. And she does actually look better now than when she walked in. All right then. Helen holds the door open for Nika and hovers there, clearly watching to make sure she gets to her seat okay. When she turns back to me and says, Your turn, she smiles at me as usual, but I'm sure it's not just my imagination that her smile is less bright than usual. I was stupid, I suppose, to pretend I could escape it all, to think that the weight pressing down on me might lessen, if only for a moment. So fucking stupid. An hour later, after many cups of tea and a few chocolate bars, Nika and I are sitting in my car, whizzing down the A4 away from Bath. Nika's welcome pack sits on her lap, and she turns the keyring she was given over in her fingers. I wonder who will end up getting it, she says, looking out the window rather than at me. My blood. Does it matter? I suppose not, she says musingly. But I'd quite like to know, you know? Something squirms in my stomach and I don't reply right away. The problem is, I've thought about that often enough myself, who my blood might be going to. And I've had the uncomfortable thought more than once that my blood might be going to save the wrong person, someone who doesn't deserve to be saved. So I don't answer her. Now that we're on our way back home, I feel jittery all over again, my fingertips bouncing off the steering wheel, my stomach churning in a way that is urging me to do something. I shouldn't have had any tea. Even that small amount of caffeine seems to be enough to put me on edge. Needing to do something to distract me, I reach over and take Nika's hand where it's sitting in her lap, give it a brief squeeze. Thanks for coming with me today. I'm sorry if I've been a little off.
Don't be thick. If I were you, I'd be in a far worse state. I think you're doing brilliantly.
She pauses, and I feel her gaze sweep over my face.
Are you okay, though? I mean, the stupid question. But is there anything else I can do?
I just need time. I'm sure eventually I'll be happy as Larry.
You know, I've never met a Larry who's particularly happy.
She pauses, tapping her nails against the window.
Our assistant at work is always happy, though. She's called Claire.
My lips twitch. Okay, I'm sure in no time I'll be happy as Claire then. She grins, but it drops off her face almost instantly, and I know it's because she's thinking that there's no way that that can be true, that someone doesn't lose their dad to cancer, then almost a year later find out that their mother was murdered and come out of that fine, let alone happy. So I need to do something before I go home. Do you want me to drop you off first?
No.
She raises a questioning eyebrow at me, but I say nothing, the effort of maintaining a normal conversation becoming a bit much for me. I need to save it up for when I really have to speak. She doesn't ask me anything more until I turn into the police station.
Sarah, what are you...
I just want to know where they are with it all. They won't tell me anything on the phone, so I thought if I just came in... Nika looks like she wants to dissuade me of it, but then just nods.
Do you want me to come in with you?
I bite the inside of my cheek, trying to decide if having her with me will help in any way. It's probably better if you just wait in the... But I stop talking, staring out of the windscreen, as someone else gets out of their car on the other side of the car park.
What?
Nika follows the direction of my gaze.
What is it? Who is that?
It's Phil, I murmur, trailing him as he lumbers from his jeep to the glass entrance of the station. You know, my mother's boyfriend. They must have called him in to speak to him.
Shit, Nika mutters and ducks her head to her knees.
I frown down at her. What on earth are you doing?
I don't know. Aren't we being, stealth-like or something?
The sight of her, bent over, looking up at me imploringly, makes me want to burst out laughing for one glorious moment. But the urge fades when Phil disappears inside the station. We don't need to be stealth-like. We're doing nothing wrong. I'm entitled to ask what they're doing to catch my mother's murderer.
Nika sits up straight again. You're right. I'm so sorry. You're totally right. I wasn't...
She stops talking when I turn the engine back on and pull out of the parking space.
Aren't you going inside then?
No. I edge out the police station, but instead of turning left towards our block of flats, I turn right.
Oh, where are we going then?
To Phil's house.
Right, but we just saw him at the station?
I know. But I want to know why the police think he's guilty. They won't tell me if I ask, so I'm going to find out myself. Taken from case file, Nicola Gregory. Philip Daly. Extract from recorded interview. Date, 8th of the 10th, 2018. Duration, 27 minutes. Conducted by officers D.C. Murphy and D.S. Ashby. D.S. Thank you, Mr. Daly. Now also present is... Solicitor, Rachel Moore, here to act as legal advisor. D.S. Thank you. So, Mr. Daly, do you mind telling us how long you and Nicola have been seeing each other for?
P.D.
Seeing each other?
D.S. Yes, I mean...
P.D. I know what you mean. We were in a relationship for about 6 months.
D.S.
And how did you meet?
PD. What's that got to do with anything?
DS. We're just trying to get a bit of background, build up a picture of Nicola's life.
PD. Right, fine. At the little corner shop, Baubles, you know it?
DS. We do.
PD. Well, I just popped in to get a few things and she served me. We got talking and I asked her out.
DC. You were married previously, is that right?
PD. Yeah, that's right. No law about having another woman after that, though, is there?
DC.
No, of course not.
Do you mind telling us why you and your ex-wife got divorced?
PD. Yeah, I do mind, actually. None of your damn business.
Solicitor. You don't have to answer anything you don't want to. DS. Of course, Rachel is right. We're really grateful for you coming down to meet us. We know you didn't have to do that. But all of this really does just help us paint a picture so that we can get to the bottom of what happened to Nicola. I'm sure you want that too.
PD. Well, asking me about my divorce is hardly helping Nicola, is it? All right, no need to look at me that way, I get it. You want to build a picture. We just drifted apart, that happens.
DS. Yes, it does, sadly. We did notice, though, that your ex-wife, Shirley, I believe, filed for a restraining order a few years ago.
PD. That was all bullshit. I was just trying to keep things friendly, you know? Thought I could get to know her new husband and she went apeshit about me coming round the house.
DS. So that was it. You just went round her house a few times.
PD. That's right. Damn woman completely overreacted.
DS. Did you have a key for Shirley's house?
PD. It was my house too, before she got it in the divorce, which I had to remind her of.
DS. So you kept the key?
PD. So what if I did?
DS. And what did you do when you went round her, that is to say, your old house?
PD. I don't have to answer that, isn't that right?
Solicitor. That's completely right, yes.
PD. Well, that's that then. I don't want to talk any more about Shirley. It's got nothing to do with Nicola's death and won't help you in the slightest. So I don't have to sit here explaining it to you.
DC. Fair enough. In that case, let's talk a bit more about your relationship with Nicola. A couple of people we've talked to have commented that you seemed rather protective of Nicola. Would you say that's fair?
PD. Nothing wrong with being protective. Are you saying you wouldn't want your man to take care of you? Do you even have a man, working woman like you? But it's all about the career, isn't it?
DC. I don't think that's any.
PD. Nicola liked it. It was about time someone took care of her.
DC. And how exactly did you take care of her?
PD. You need me to spell it out for you?
DC.
PD. I drove her to work, picked her up, made sure she didn't spread herself too thin. She was always trying to make everyone else happy, not herself.
DC. Right, and how often did you drive her to and from work, would you say?
PD. Dunno, most days she was working, I suppose, unless I was tied up at a site.
DS. Nicola had her own car, is that right?
PD. Yeah, so?
DS. And the shop was close to her house, close enough to walk?
PD. I don't see what you're getting at here.
DS. I'm just wondering why you made a habit of driving her to and from work if she could get there herself.
PD. Just because she could doesn't mean she wanted to. I've told you, she needed taking care of after all the crap she'd been through, and there was certainly no one else going to do it.
DC. No one else? What about her daughter, Sarah?
PD. Yeah, right. She'd be better off without that girl in her life. I told her that. Nothing but trouble.
DC. Trouble? How do you mean?
PD.
Well, she didn't treat anyone with respect, in my opinion. Too caught up in her own life. Only saw her mum when it suited her. No, she certainly wasn't going to take care of her. It was down to me. DS. Mr. Daly, Did you ever send Nicola flowers as another way of taking care of her, perhaps? PD. What? Flowers? Yeah, I guess I bought her flowers every now and then. Women like that, don't they? DS. And did you send her any flowers in the week or so before she died? We found some in her rubbish, you see, and are just trying to figure out who sent them. PD. Well, look, I wouldn't have sent her them. I'd have brought them round with me. But no, I don't remember giving her flowers in the last few weeks. DS. So you didn't write her a card with the word soon written on it? PD. What? No idea what that's about. DC. All right, thanks, Mr. Daly. We've also spoken to Nicola's boss, Mary, and she mentioned that you tended to bring her coffee to the shop. Was this another way of taking care of her? PD. Yeah, it was. What are you getting at? DS. How often did you take her coffee, do you think? PD. What kind of ridiculous question is that? I didn't keep track. I wasn't tallying up the nice things I did for her. Do you have a woman? DS. We're not here to talk about me. PD. I bet you don't. Is that because that's the type of thing you do? Tally up all the favours you do for a woman so she can pay you back? Free tip. Women don't like that. DC. So, back to the coffee. PD. For Christ's sake, what more do you want to know about the bleeding coffee? DC. Well, Mary seemed to think Nicola didn't like coffee. PD. She never mentioned that to me. Was always grateful when I brought her one. DC. What kind of coffee did she like? PD. Oh, for Christ. I always got her a cappuccino, which she certainly never complained about. DC. Did she take sugar? PD. No, she was watching her figure, so I never added any sugar. DC. She was watching her figure? She told you that? PD. Didn't have to tell me. DS. All right, thanks, Mr. Daly. Now, the night Nicola died, you were there, is that right? Along with Ben and Fiona? PD. That's right. DS. Mr. Daly, did Nicola say anything that evening? Anything that you think might help us at all? PD. Well, she wasn't very coherent, if I'm being honest. Nothing she was saying made a lot of sense. DS. Can you remember any of it? It might not have seemed relevant at the time, but it would still be really helpful to know. PD. I can't remember much of it. She was saying a lot of people's names. She said Charlie's name a few times, though none of us knew why. And she made some weird comment about eyes. DS. Eyes? PD. Yeah, something like, it's all in the eyes. Something along those lines, anyway. Like I said, none of it made any sense. DC. All right, do you mind telling us why you were there that night? Had you made plans to see her? PD. No plans. I hadn't heard from her all day, and I knew she hadn't been to work because I called in to check on her, so I went by to see if she was okay. DC. And when was the last time you saw Nicola, before that night? PD. I stayed around the night before, was there when she woke up. DC. How did she seem that morning? PD. She was no worse than the night before. Obviously, if she'd seemed really ill, I would have taken her to the hospital or something. Do you not think I'd have done that? I really wish she had seemed worse, because maybe I could have prevented it somehow, and I'd be with her right now rather than talking to you clowns. DS, I know this is difficult, Mr. Daly, but PD, you know shit. Instead of you being out there doing something useful to find out who killed her, you're in here with me asking all these bullshit questions that won't help anyone. DC. I can assure you we're doing everything in our power to... PD. Yeah. Have to rule me out as a suspect, don't you? I know how these things work. I've seen Luther. Already made your mind up, have you? Decided it's me? Nicola, though. She was fine that morning. DC. And yet she wasn't well enough to go to work? PD. She didn't actually tell me that herself. I only found out later when I called to check on her. DS. What time did you leave her, roughly? PD. I don't know. Look,
I'll be honest here and tell you we had a bit of an argument that morning, so I left a bit earlier than usual, maybe around 7:30.
DC. An argument? PD.
Yeah, and you really think I'd be telling you if it was some big deal? She wanted me to leave, rather abruptly at that, and I was a bit cross about it, that's all. That's why I went round later, to apologise, to make up with her. I'd actually gone to buy her something nice that day down at the jewellery shop in town. Been planning it as a surprise for a few days to cheer her up. You know, she hadn't been feeling great.
DS. We do, yes. So you went to buy her a present that day. Which shop exactly?
PD. Images. Look, I need to use the loo. Are we done? Can I go?
DS. We'd like to ask you a few more questions if possible, but of course you're free to use the facilities. For the sake of the recording, this interview is being paused.
DC. Interview is being resumed. The time is 3:43 in the afternoon by my watch, and present in the room are myself, DC Murphy, DS Ashby, Rachel Moore, and Philip Daly.
DS. Thanks, Detective Murphy. Mr. Daly, how would you say you got on with Fiona and Benjamin Gregory?
PD. Barely know 'em.
DC.
Did you like them?
PD.
Like I said, barely know 'em.
DS. A general impression then?
PD. Fiona's all right. Can't say I like Ben too much, if I'm honest.
DC.
Why's that?
PD.
Does there need to be a reason?
DC.
Well, no, I suppose not.
PD.
Look, it was clear he had a thing for Nicola. If you speak to anyone else, I'm sure they'll tell you the same.
DC.
You mean he was having an affair with her?
PD.
No, I don't think so. Well, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know, and that's the honest truth. I'd like to think Nicola wouldn't have done that to me, and would at least have told me if there was something going on. She said they were just good friends, but he was always sniffing around her like a dog in heat, even though she was with me. Couldn't take a hint, that guy. Bit intense, if you ask me. I tried to put Nicola off him, to show her what kind of guy he was, but I don't think I ever really got through to her.
DS. You tried to put her off him? How exactly did you do that?
PD. I just told her what kind of guy he was. Might have said I saw him looking through her stuff, that kind of thing. She needed to know what she was dealing with there.
DS. And did you?
PD. What?
DS. Did you see him going through her stuff?
PD. Look, just because I didn't see it doesn't mean it wasn't true.
End of CD 5. CD 6.
Chapter 18. But Sarah, we don't even know if the police do think he's guilty. Nika has her trying to be reasonable voice on, but I can hear the mild panic underneath as I whiz along the little lanes towards Phil's house. I've only been there once before, when I went to pick my mother up, but I still remember where it is, like somehow I knew one day I'd need to come here again.
He could be at this station for any number of reasons, she continues, her voice becoming ever so slightly higher. I mean, the police talked to you, didn't they?
Yeah, well, I'm not so sure they didn't think I was guilty too, I mumble, to which Nika shakes her head disbelievingly. She changes tack.
How are you even going to get in? And please don't tell me you're going to break the door down, because even if that were in any way not a terrible idea, I'm not actually sure it's feasible.
Don't be ridiculous. I have a key.
You have a...
She pulls both hands through her hair. My mother had one.
Yes, but how do you have it?
I glance at her at the corner of my eye, but don't reply. Somehow, I don't think she'll like the fact that I took my mother's set of keys after I got to her annex the night she died. Far too late, of course. I pull up on the curb by Phil's house. I don't even worry about what the neighbours will think, if they're in at this time of day. I have a key, and I don't exactly look like the breaking and entering sort. I get out, make sure I grab my handbag out of the back, then peer at Nika, who is still sitting in the passenger seat, looking mildly shell-shocked. You coming in? Maybe better if you stay here, actually, I say. You can keep a lookout. Text me if he comes back. Oh, for fuck's sake, Sarah. Chill, I won't be long. I need to do something, Nika. I can't just sit around when my mother has been murdered. I expect that to shut her up, to tap into some sympathy, but clearly she considers this way beyond that. You need to let the police handle it, she snaps. I slam the car door shut, but she opens it again. And what am I supposed to do if he does come back? She hisses. I wave my hand over my shoulder and march straight up to Phil's door. The key is out of my handbag and in my hand by the time I get there. I'm greeted by a musty smell, the one you get in a bedroom when it hasn't been aired out in too long. It's disgusting, and I wrinkle my nose against it. Nerves jump in my stomach as I head straight for the kitchen. I'm aware, despite ignoring Nika, that this is a little reckless, that I'm pushing the boundaries of rational behaviour. I've got no idea how long Phil will be at the station, or if anyone else has a key who could rock up at any second. I take a breath. All that means is I've got to be quick, in and out. I don't think the police have looked here yet. I'm sure I would have heard on the grapevine somehow. It would be big news around here. But I have my own reasons for being here. I glance at the garden through the glass back door when I get to the kitchen. It's so sparse, no plants, just a small concrete patio leading onto a square of grass, which looks like it hasn't been cut in months. I know it's a tiny garden, but he still could have done something with it. Small gardens can look great if you know what to do with them, as I've learned from Fiona. There are dirty plates stacked on top of what is presumably a full dishwasher, and a congealed mess sits in a pan on the hob. Last night's dinner, I assume. Really, could he be any more of a cliché? But then the house wasn't in this state last time I was here. My mother's influence, perhaps. Or maybe he's grieving for my mother in his own way. I try and fail to conjure up a spark of sympathy at that. A faint off smell emanates from the fridge when I open it. Hardly any food in here, just a couple of cartons of milk, some tomatoes that look like they're going mouldy in the bottom shelf, and a half-empty tub of utterly butterly. I stare at the contents for a moment, wondering if the detectives will have the same thought I'm having right now. When I'm done in the kitchen, I readjust my handbag and check my phone, but ignore the barrage of WhatsApp messages from Nika telling me to get on with it. I get it. I have to be quick. But I'm here now, and if the police are thinking Phil might have killed my mother, then I want to check if there's anything in his house that might substantiate that thinking, if and when they decide to search it. Because I might think that poison makes no sense for a guy like Phil, too subtle, too drawn out, but that doesn't mean the police will think the same. Then there's the jealousy. I saw it the night he and I walked in on Ben and my mother looking shifty. The fact that he's a complete knobhead doesn't help. If the detectives are talking to him, they'll see that. And who knows, the idiot might have said something, done something to make them think he's guilty, something I don't know about yet. My heart is beating faster as I run up the stairs. I can feel blood pulsing in my fingertips, can hear a faint ringing in my ears, but I shake my head against it. I've got to think logically, like the police would do. I check the bathroom, the tiny second bedroom. Nothing jumps out at me suspicious. No notepads with "I hate Nicola" written on. There's the sound of something slamming outside and I freeze. But no, it was too far away. It can't be Phil's car, not yet. I run through into the master bedroom and check through the window just in case. No one is there. The street is still empty. The musty smell of the whole house is stronger in here, and there are clothes piled on the floor in a corner. 2 half-full glasses of water on the bedside table, alongside an empty beer bottle. I stare at the bed.
My mother must have slept in it. Something curdles in my stomach at that. Yes, I made a show of being all supportive over the last few months, but really, what was she thinking? A guy like him? He's nothing like my dad, who was kind and gentle and never jealous or possessive. I hear the sound of an engine and jump. At the same time, my phone lights up in my hand, showing more incoming messages from Nika. Phil is here. I'm serious. He's here. He's driving in now. Get out of there. Shit. I run out of the bedroom, but I already know I'm too late. I can hear the car pulling up onto the small driveway in front of the house. Any moment now, and he'll walk in and see me, yell at me, demand to know what the hell I'm doing. Shit, maybe he'll even report me to the police. That would look just great, wouldn't it? I dial Nika as I sprint down the stairs. She answers immediately. Distract him, I hiss. What? Nika, Phil is about to walk in and see me. I need you to go up to him and distract him so I can get out of here. I'm surprised at how calm my voice is, how fucking cool I am in a crisis. I hang up, not giving her the time to answer, hoping like hell she'll just do it. I reach the hallway at the same time as a key is jammed into the lock. A male grunt of frustration follows it. To the kitchen. My breathing is now coming so fast it feels like I'm hyperventilating. I look out at the garden through the clear paned back door. Fucking hell, if only my mother had a back door key too. I glance frantically around the kitchen. Surely there's a back door key here somewhere. There, on top of the microwave, a metal set of keys seems to glint at me, advertising their presence. I lunge for them, but I can hear the front door opening, the sound of bottles clinking. I'm going to be too late, just seconds too late. And then, God fucking love her, I hear Nika's voice. Hello, excuse me. She's breathless, too high-pitched, and I can just imagine her expression. Sorry, excuse me? She repeats, louder now. On high alert, like I am. I can swear I can hear her breathing, almost as frantic as mine. I hold my breath, as if to compensate, every muscle in my body strained. I've got the keys in my hand, but I don't dare use them yet, in case I make too much noise. I'm really sorry to bother you, she says, and I can tell she's right at the door now. I can't seem to get my car to start, and there's no one else around. Is there any chance you could take a look? Look, lady, today's been a really long... Please, she says, and I can just imagine her batting her eyelashes. Thank fuck she's attractive. I know it's a lot to ask, but I could really do with some help. I've called my sister, but, well, she knows as much about cars as I do. She laughs, a little manically if I'm honest, but I know she's nailed it, even before Phil answers. All right, he says gruffly. Show me what the problem is. Oh, thank you so much, she says. I hear the front door shut and jump into action, fumbling with the keys and trying them one by one in the back door. The third one works, and I actually let out a squeak of excitement. I quickly dump them on top of the microwave, shove open the back door and shut it behind me. Hopefully he'll just think he forgot to lock it. I sprint down the length of the garden, let myself out the back gate and keep running until I'm just round the corner from the road which leads on to Phil's. Far enough away that he'd have to walk right up to the end of his road to see me. My head feels light and I get an irrational urge to laugh. Fumbling with my phone, I send Nika a quick text, telling her I'll meet her on the main road and she'll have to drive my car to come and get me. Then I start walking, keeping my head down just in case. It doesn't take long until I hear a car and turn to see my green Clio. Scowling at me, Nika gets out of the driver's seat and without a word walks round to the passenger's side. I get in, fasten my seatbelt. Only then do I notice that my hands are shaking. Thanks, I breathe as I pull out. She says nothing. So the car started immediately, I'm guessing? Again, nothing. Though I can't help but grin, the adrenaline buzzing inside me setting me off, making me want to laugh. I can't remember the last time I felt something close to this, and
and the urge to give myself over to it is almost unbearable. Nika seems to struggle for a moment, her arms crossed tight over her chest, her eyebrows almost comical the way they're darting all over the place independently of one another, refusing to settle in on one expression. Then she lets loose. "I can't believe you. You are completely insane. You could have been caught. Do you get that? Breaking and entering is illegal and—" On and on she goes, and though it has the effect of killing my buzz, I manage to drown her out. Because now that I'm out safely, my mind is back on what I was thinking about, staring into Phil's fridge. I wonder if it will occur to the detectives too. If I should tell them my theory, or if that's a bit too pushy even for me. It might have taken a while for me to realise it, but it's obvious to me now. That whoever was spending time with my mother, eating the same food or drinking the same drinks as her, could well have ingested poison that was meant for her without knowing it. So all the police have to do is check who does and doesn't have poison in their system. Right? Chapter 19. Well, that was interesting. Murphy glances at Ashby, who comes up to where she's staring at the wall of the office they've turned into a board for the case. Phil's photo is looking out at her. She knows she was on edge during the interview, feels like she didn't do her best work. She tried not to let it get to her, how he looked at her compared to how he looked at Ashby, tried to stay calm. But she knows she didn't quite pull it off, and she's waiting for Ashby to say something about it. "I know," she says. "What's with the eyes comment?" "No idea. Not sure we should read too much into it. Maybe it means she was having hallucinations after all. If she wasn't coherent, mentioning her dead husband's name, talking about eyes. Yeah, you might be right. A good thing, she supposes, given it fits with their poisons." Ashby goes quiet, and she feels the need to keep talking. "He wouldn't give us his phone," she says. Unnecessary to point out, given Ashby was there when he refused, but she'd rather detract attention away from herself right now. "Yeah, because God knows what we might be looking for." "It's that damn Daily Mail article, I'm telling you," she mutters. To be fair, him not wanting us to look at his phone doesn't necessarily make him guilty. Plenty of people would be the same. I think. "I know," he corrects himself. "I've seen it before." "I know that," she says impatiently. "But it doesn't look good either, does it?" She wants it to be him. She knows that's wrong, knows she should be more objective, but she really wants it to be him. And there's still the fact he was bringing her coffee. He didn't really get his back up about it, though. "I suppose so," Murphy mutters. "Well, no more than the rest of it, anyway." Exactly. He wasn't being overly helpful, but I didn't sense he was especially worried about us asking about that in particular. So maybe he really didn't know she didn't like it. In fairness, we only have Mary Webster's word to go on for that. Besides, regardless of whether she did or didn't like it, if she was drinking it, then he still could have hidden the poison there. Yeah, that's true. She makes a sound of disgust. Watching her figure. I bet she never said anything of the sort. Bet he just didn't want her having sugar for his own reasons. Ashby raises his eyebrows, says nothing, and she flushes, clears her throat to cover it. "The jewellery store checks out, by the way. He did go in that day, buy some earrings. They've got the footage." Ashby nods, considering, and Murphy sighs. Does it make sense for him to buy her something the same day as kill her? "We don't know he was definitely buying something for Nicola," Ashby points out, just because he says that's what he was doing. "Right," says Murphy enthusiastically, willing to get on board with that theory. Plus, he was with her in the morning, could have upped the dose of poison then, especially as they'd had an argument. And he was obviously the controlling type. Yeah, exactly. Plus, the restraining order doesn't look good for him, does it? The fact that he wouldn't let go of his ex-wife? True. Shows a history of obsessive behaviour, perhaps. So what if Nicola was going to break up with him, and he got angry? The poisoning had been going on for several weeks at least, likely planned long before then. If she was going to break up with him, we'd be questioning her ex, not her current boyfriend. She frowns. He's right about that. Do you definitely think he's the type? Ashby asks. Remember, our killer is someone who's been thinking about this for a long time, who planned it and waited it out deliberately so Nicola would suffer. That doesn't speak of someone who acted in the heat of the moment. It's someone clinical, able to stay detached from it all as Nicola suffered over weeks. There's got to be a strong reason for someone to do that. It could be a jealousy thing, the whole if I can't have her, no one can scenario. Or maybe, if I can't have her exclusively, then no one can. He was clearly unhappy about Ben, didn't trust Nicola. Otherwise, why would he try and put her off him like that? Ashby's gaze travels to the photo of Ben. Yeah, I've been wondering about that. And then there's all of this, I had to take care of her crap. It just sounds like he was possessive over her, doesn't it? Like he didn't want to share her with anyone. Did you see how he reacted to Sarah? It just sounded like he wanted Nicola to himself. Murphy moves his gaze to where Sarah's pale green eyes stare out at her, unnervingly direct, even in a photograph. Wonder what she thought of him, she thinks aloud. Thomas, the DC she doesn't like, chooses that moment to rock up, clutching a brown folder in hand. She swears he's just put whatever it is in a folder for effect. What's wrong with carrying around a piece of paper? Thought you'd like to see this, sir? He says to Ashby, pressing the folder into his hands. Really, what's with the sir? Ashby only outranks them by one position. James is the only one they need to call sir around here. Blatantly just sucking up. Ashby takes a look, smiles. Well, he says, turning from the other DC and looking at her. Looks like we've now got an excuse to go and ask her about it. Chapter 20. I'm sitting on my bed with my duvet around me, hugging my knees to my chest as I try to figure out the best way to go forward. I need to keep doing things that feel constructive. Otherwise, there's a chance I'll go legitimately mad waiting for the police to figure everything out. I can hear Nika clattering around in the kitchen and grit my teeth against the noise. It's not her fault, but sound really carries in the flat, and right now I want quiet. The adrenaline from the near miss at Phil's house has gone, and all I'm left with is a chill. I press my forehead to my knees. I just want this to be over. Why can't it be over? There's the sound of the buzzer to the flat ringing, and I squeeze my eyes shut. Nika can deal with it. Hopefully it's just someone delivering an Amazon package. She orders a disproportionate number of things from there. I hear her open the front door. Then there are murmured voices that I could probably make out if I tried hard enough. The sound of the door slamming, followed by footsteps creaking on the wooden floorboards. There's a tentative knock at my door. Sarah? Tell them to go away. My voice is muffled against my knees. I, can't, she mumbles. I groan and push up off my bed. What do you mean you can't? I ask as I open the door. I don't want to talk to anyone. Nika twists her hands in front of her, slim fingers entwining together. Sarah, it's the police, she whispers. My heart thuds painfully against my chest, firing my system back into full alert. She looks at me with round eyes and I meet her gaze, knowing she's thinking the same thing, wondering if the police somehow know I was at Phil's house earlier, wondering if they come to question me about it. Shit. Maybe I shouldn't have done it. Maybe it was too risky. I take a breath, tell myself to get a grip. Okay. We walk along the landing and to the sitting room. Just before we head in, Nika takes my hand, gives it a gentle squeeze. I squeeze hers back without looking at her, the warmth of her touch lingering, making me a little calmer. The detectives are sat next to each other on the bigger of the two black sofas. Murphy looks at ease with one leg encased within black trousers crossed over the other, while Ashby sits right at the edge of the sofa, leaning forward. I wonder if that's because he thinks his stumpy legs won't reach the floor if he sits too far back. They both stand when Nika and I enter. I take a breath. In for 3, out for 3. Hello, detectives. How can I help? Sarah. Murphy smiles at me, flashing a set of perfect teeth. How are you doing? Well, I could be better, I say stiffly. Nika clears her throat from where she's hovering in the doorway. I'll leave you to it then. She hesitates. Do you want a drink or anything? Oh no, says Murphy graciously. Don't worry, we won't be long, I hope. Nika scurries out of the room. I look the detectives straight in the eye and gesture for them to sit back down, waiting until they do so before I take a seat on the smaller sofa. I make sure my movements are calm, unhurried, so as not to let on at the nerves bubbling under my skin at their arrival. So, have you found out who murdered my mother yet? I spit it out, the question bitter on my tongue before they can say anything. My stomach squirms as I wait a beat for them to answer. For one tiny moment, I'm not actually sure if I want to hear the reply. We're still working on it, says Murphy calmly. Great. So they are no closer, have done nothing. Have you had any other thoughts about who could be responsible? I have a feeling she's asking me out of courtesy, to keep me satisfied that I'm in the loop, rather than actually wanting to hear my theories. But I hesitate anyway. I think of what I told Mary about walking in on Ben and my mother, and of Phil, of the fact that I was just at his house, the theory I had while there. No, I say eventually. If I knew who did it, I would tell you. Well, in that case... She clasps her hands on her lap and glances at Ashby. He gives her a little nod. We're actually here to talk to you about your mother's will, Sarah. I frown. Her will? What about it? Ashby picks up the thread. Well, you're named as the only beneficiary there. I nod slowly. I haven't given much thought to her will, in all honesty. Haven't bothered to push the solicitor on it. It's so far down my list of priorities right now. Well, I'm her only family, unless you count Ben and Fiona, I guess. But I'm the only one left related by blood. Did she speak to you about it beforehand? Asks Ashby. No, we never spoke about it. Why would we have? She wasn't expecting to die. Do you know if she spoke with anyone else about it? Murphy's voice is calm. A little too calm, actually, like she either already knows the answer or doesn't care about it. No, I say bluntly. Why would I know that? You're right, of course, you wouldn't necessarily know, says Ashby. I suppose we're just wondering if you can think of anyone who might have expected to be in the will, who might have been put out that they weren't named. I cock my head. Detectives, have you actually read the contents of my mother's will? I don't give them the chance to answer. Now, I haven't, but I can guarantee there's not a whole lot in there. Certainly nothing of any huge value. Why do you think she was living in an annex across from her brother-in-law? For fun? She lost everything when my father died. Everything. My voice cracks on that. An image of our old family home, of all the memories it held, flaring up in my mind. They don't say anything immediately to that, and I feel a spark of impatience, though I manage to stop myself tapping my foot on the floor. Look, are you trying to ask me if I think someone was angry they weren't in the will, so killed my mother because of it?
Because not only does that not make sense given how little she had, but surely it would only make sense for someone to kill her if they were mentioned in the will. They exchange a look that I can't read, and my stomach swoops. Because maybe that's it. I'm the only one mentioned there, so maybe they think that gives me motive. Ridiculous as it might seem to me that someone would kill her for a few household items. I ignore the tingle of nerves that kick in at that. All it proves is that they're bloody incompetent if they think that. I deliberately straighten my back, stick my chin in the air. Do you actually have something of significance to ask me? Because really, I'm going through enough right now that I don't need you showing up at my house, getting my hopes up that you might have found something, only to drop something like this on me. You're right, Sarah, Murphy says, her voice deadly smooth. The truth is, while we did want to talk to you about her will, we also wondered if we could get your opinion on something. I raise my eyebrows, waiting. We wondered how you felt about your mother's boyfriend, Phil. My heart sends an uncomfortable thrum of electricity around my body, but I try not to let it show. They are calm, so I will be too. There's no reason to suspect they know what I was doing only hours ago. What about him? Did you like him? I shrug. No, not really. Not at all, actually. But my mum seemed to, so I put up with him. And your mother was happy with him, was she? She didn't say anything to you about him over the last few weeks before she died? I sigh. Look, I know what you're getting at. And no, I don't think he killed her. I don't like him, and I'm pretty sure the feeling's mutual, but he genuinely seemed to care for my mother, and she certainly never said anything bad about him to me. Besides, they'd only been going out for, 6 months? I don't know, I don't see what could have happened to make him do that to her. Murphy nods slowly, and I get the impression my answer isn't the one she wanted to hear. So I was right. They think it was Phil. First suspect's usually the right one, or something like that, isn't it? But they've already questioned him and they haven't made an arrest, so surely they can't be certain. Otherwise they wouldn't be here asking me about it. I press my tongue to the roof of my mouth to avoid snapping out words I'll regret later. But for fuck's sake, they are dragging their heels here. It's their job to figure out who did this to her. But it's like I want it solved more than they do, like I'm having to do the work for them. Actually, that's stupid. Of course I want it solved more than they do. I just have to be patient. But really, isn't it as obvious to them as it is to me that a guy like Phil isn't behind a murder like this? And Sarah, Ashby picks up the thread. We heard that your mother may have had an argument, perhaps, with your Uncle Ben a few nights before she died. Do you know anything about that? Another jolt from my heart. It's going to cut years off me, the way it's working so hard at the moment. They know about that, then. I wonder who told them, Phil or Mary? Bet it was Mary. You can't say anything in this town unless you want it shared. Sounds like you already know everything I do, I say evenly. I choose my next words carefully. Whatever I'm feeling, I don't want to be the one to land Ben in it. Phil and I walked in on them the other day, but it wasn't all that dramatic, and we didn't really see anything, so I can't even tell you if it was an actual argument or if they were just talking. And Phil, Murphy picks up, how did Phil seem, seeing them, talking? I don't know, I say with a sigh. He didn't say anything out loud, and it's not like he'd open up to me if he was annoyed by it. But he didn't yell at Ben or my mum or anything, and he was still around after it, so... Murphy glances at Ashby, and they seem to come to an unsaid agreement, standing up in unison. All right, says Ashby. Thanks, Sarah, you've been really helpful. We'll show ourselves out, shall we? Oh, I say, feeling that the end to this conversation has come rather abruptly. But then, maybe that's a good thing. It means they can't know what I was doing only hours ago. Means I got away with it. No, it's okay, I'll let you out. Ashby glances around the living room as he follows me, and I can't help wondering if he's looking for something in particular, or just being curious. That's a nice selection of plants you have out there, Murphy says conversationally. I turn to see her gesturing to our small balcony, where I've arranged various potted plants. I can sense she's trying to be casual, but there's something in her tone that sets me on edge. Oh, thanks. I wish I had a garden, really, but, well, what type of plants are they? I know nothing about gardens. I don't know a huge amount either, in all honesty. I only got into it recently. Fiona's been teaching me. She and Ben are both big gardeners. I see her exchange a look with Ashby, though I think she's trying to be subtle. I really wish I knew what they were thinking right now. Those ones, though, that's a geranium, and that one's a tomato plant. Not that I've had any joy there yet. I'm lucky, or so Ben's told me. We get quite a lot of sun on that balcony. We reach the front door, and I hold it open for them. I'm sorry I couldn't be more help, I say, feeling awkward. I wish I hadn't lost my temper early on now. Maybe I stopped them from telling me something. Murphy smiles, though it doesn't seem real. It seems like the type of smile I've been trying to put on recently. You've been very helpful, Sarah, not to worry. Ashby follows her out the door, giving me a curt nod, his expression mild. He turns to go, but Murphy stops after only a couple of steps, angling her head in a way that makes her cheekbones look fantastically prominent, despite the roundness of her face. Sorry, Sarah, can I just ask one more thing? She ignores what seems like a questioning look from Ashby. This might seem like a silly question, but I wonder if you could tell us how your mother liked to take her tea. I frown, glancing from Murphy to Ashby and back again. Neither of their expressions give anything away, but I know this isn't just a throwaway question. No, this must be them looking into the poisons and not telling me. I curl my hands into fists at my sides, nails biting flesh. But my voice is calm as I answer. Milky, I guess, and sweet. She liked it sweet. Chapter 21. Murphy jangles the Corsa keys as the two of them step out of the block of flats. She turns to look at Ashby as if to say, well? I don't think the will has anything to do with it, Ashby says eventually. Murphy blows out a breath. It surprises her that it's already cold enough to mist up the air. It was a long shot. Would have been nice, though. Easy. Ashby offers her a rare grin. Where's the glory in that? They walk across the car park together. You asked about the tea, he states. But as Murphy opens her mouth to speak, he cuts her off. Don't give me that look. I'm not cross. Not about to tell you to back off. I wasn't. No, I imagine you weren't. Murphy frowns and Ashby's lips twitch before falling back into that straight-faced expression he does so well. I imagine you weren't going to say anything, he elaborates. That's the problem. You don't say it, you just think it. I'm not annoyed that you asked about the tea, he reiterates as she squirms a little. It was a good call. It doesn't change the fact that someone could still have been giving her the poison in something she didn't like, but it makes more sense for the killer to disguise it in something she did like, right? She doesn't point out that this will make it less likely to be Phil. She doesn't really want to say that out loud yet. Yeah, it would. More guarantee she'd actually get it in her system. So in that case, could we be looking at belladonna? Be easy to hide that in sweet tea for sure. Seems a likely possibility, yes. And it's a better-known poison, easier to cultivate, perhaps. Murphy feels an electric jolt of excitement as she unlocks the car, the thought that they might have their poison. Ashby makes no move to get in, so she leans against the driver's door. So if it's belladonna,
I'm pretty sure that we're looking at least an hour between ingesting the poison and death. It's not instantaneous from what I've read. All right, good to know. He pauses. You pointed out the plants in her flat. Murphy nods. Sarah didn't seem worried by it, though. I was waiting for a reaction. And none of them are poisonous. And none of them are poisonous, she agrees. And she cuts herself off, not sure if what she's thinking is actually worth anything. Go on. Well, I remember something from reading about belladonna. It grows more easily in the shade, hence its other name, deadly nightshade. So it wouldn't be ideal to grow on that balcony anyway. Ashby grunts, and she leaves it at that. She seemed pretty certain it's not Phil, she says instead. Yeah, which is interesting given how much she clearly doesn't like him. But I have to say, you agree with her? Well, I'm not saying we should rule Phil out altogether, but I think there's enough pointing us in a different direction that we would be idiots to cling on to him, just for the sake of it. It doesn't fit his personality, and there's no sign of him being interested in gardening, whereas... Ben? Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I don't think we can ignore that his name keeps cropping up, that he was living just meters away from our victim. He's got the opportunity, and if there was something going on with Nicola, that might give us motive. Murphy nods in agreement. She'd initially thought they should get Fiona and Ben in right away, but Ashby thought, and the DI agreed, that they shouldn't put them on alert, should make them wait a bit, wondering what was going on. When she gets into the driver's seat, she closes her eyes for a second. She's so damn tired. She's not sure she's ever been this tired before. How has it only been 4 days since the investigation started? You okay? Ashby slides in next to her. Yeah. She drops her hand, not wanting to seem weak in front of him. Just thinking about Ben? Yeah, that interview is bound to be interesting. Murphy grimaces, thinking about the interview with Phil. Like he's somehow reading her thoughts, Ashby adds, hopefully he won't be quite as big a dick. She glances at him, a little surprised, and he just raises his eyebrows. You didn't think I'd notice what kind of person he is? No, I don't know what I thought, she admits. I guess I didn't think you'd admit it to me, is all. Ashby runs a hand across his jawline. Look, I know you don't like me much. I never... He cuts her off, and she uses the excuse of reversing out the spot to avoid looking at him. I know you think I've been unfair, calling seniority on you, or not trusting you, or whatever. And I just want to be clear. I'm not a dick. Murphy squashes down a snort. That's not quite what she expected him to say. I'm not trying to stop you getting involved. If I was, I would have said right at the outset that I didn't want to DC on a murder case that was all over the town, especially not one that doesn't know the area, or that I didn't feel comfortable with you in the interview room, given your lack of experience. Murphy grimaces. She knows, of course, that he could have done that. She just doesn't like hearing it out loud. What I'm saying, he carries on in that frustratingly even tone, is that I am giving you a chance, okay? She nods, swallows down a bit of pride. Apparently she hasn't exactly been the queen of subtlety. I'm sorry. I'm grateful to be involved, honestly. I just thought, I don't know, it just seemed like you were judging me or not trusting me or something. Well, I was, he says, shrugging. She frowns across at him. Of course I was. I don't know you that well, and this is a big case for me too, one that James is letting me take the lead on. You come in, a DC who's never been on a murder case, who doesn't know the town. Of course I was judging you. And I'll keep doing that, and so will the DI. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't keep trying to prove that you can add something valuable. Murphy opens her mouth, but can think of nothing to say, so she shuts it again. So, are we okay? Or are you going to keep being silently resentful? He says it so damn evenly, but she can't help wanting to snap back. She supposes that's the problem. We're okay. I'm sorry. I'll stop. Well, just try to stop. You're still allowed to be pissed off every now and then. A privilege of the job. She smiles. Noted. All right then, let's stop at Burger King, can we? I want a coffee. And I need sugar. Do we even have lunch? You had a Coke and an egg sandwich from Sainsbury's. Right, the food of gods. Partly to clear the now slightly awkward air, she says, This is why I'm still single, you know? Haven't stopped thinking about the case long enough to remember if I ate. When am I supposed to find time for the damn apps my sister keeps telling me about? Ashby, perhaps wisely, says nothing. Murphy sighs as she pulls into the drive-through. I keep thinking that this should be easier, simpler, you know? It would be easier if there was an easier murder weapon, he mutters. Yeah, which I suppose might be another reason they chose poison. She edges a couple of inches forward as the car in front moves. There's still the voicemail, the one Nicola left Sarah. I keep trying to figure out what it could be. Like maybe it could be Nicola wanting to tell her something bad about Phil, that she couldn't get out of the relationship and then Phil overheard, up the poison or something. You're trying to make it fit with what you want, not the facts. But he says it kindly, not a reprimand. Besides, he's right. Yeah, well, maybe our little chat with Ben Gregory will open up a new lead then. He nods. Her whole body feels twitchy, eager to get on with it. I'm actually a little excited by it. She glances at him and his lips twitch. And I think that's the reason you're still single. She's so surprised, all she can do is let out a bark of laughter. Taken from case file, Nicola Gregory. Benjamin Thomas Gregory. Extract from recorded interview. Date, 8th of the 10th, 2018. Duration, 53 minutes. Conducted by officers D.C. Murphy and D.S. Ashby. D.S. So, Ben, you were Nicola's husband's brother. Is that right? B.G. Well, I mean, I'm still his brother now, even if he's not here anymore, but, yeah, stepbrother, technically. D.S. Step-brother? B.G. Yeah, you know, as in not related by blood. D.C. So you're related by marriage? B.G. Yeah, my dad married his mum when I was about 5. Charlie was older, 12. D.C. And you got on well together? B.G. Really well, yeah. Charlie was a fantastic big brother. He used to drive me to school and everything when I was a kid, and we hung out a lot later on. We helped each other out when we lost our parents and everything, and that's why I stayed around town. I wanted to be near him. D.C. All right, thanks. Ben. You were with Nicola on the night she died, is that right? B.G. Yeah, that's right. Along with Phil and Fiona. We were the ones to call the ambulance. D.C. Your wife, I believe, was the one to talk to the paramedics on the phone. B.G. That's right. D.C. And did you all walk in on Nicola together to see her in need of medical attention? B.G. In need of medical attention? She was dying. D.S. Sorry, Ben, we know this must be difficult. B.G. Yeah, it is. Sorry, it's just talking about it makes me think about it all over again, you know. D.S. We understand. Losing a loved one is never easy. I just hope we can help you find closure by finding out who did this to her. Would you like a brief pause? Have a drink of water? B.G. Thanks. D.S. No problem. Just let us know when you're ready to continue. B.G. It's fine. You can go on. D.C. We were just asking if you were all with Nicola together before the ambulance arrived. BG. We all waited with her together, yeah. I went over first because Sarah had asked me and Fiona to keep an eye on her. We all knew she wasn't doing great, not that we thought it was anything that serious. But I saw her and she didn't look well at all, so I went and got Fiona. Then Phil came round maybe 5 or 10 minutes later because he hadn't heard from her all day. We all waited until the ambulance came, but it was too late. DC. So you were with Nicola alone before the others came in? How long would you say you were alone for? BG. God, not long at all. I tried to get her to drink something and then went and got Fiona. She works at the hospital, so I thought she might be able to help. DC. Ben, why did you wait until your wife arrived to call an ambulance? Why didn't you call one right away? BG. I don't know. I wish I had. I keep wondering if it could have made a difference, those extra few minutes, you know? But I guess I panicked. I didn't realise it was as bad as it was. DS. Ben, how would you describe your relationship with Nicola? BG. She was my sister-in-law. DS. And were you friends? BG. Yeah, of course we were friends. She was married to my brother for over 20 years. DS. So you only knew her through your brother, is that right? BG. Well, yeah, I guess. But it was so long ago that they got married that she felt like my friend as much as his wife, if that makes sense. DS. And after your brother passed away, you remained friends with Nicola? BG. Of course, she lived in my annex, looked after my kids. DC. Apparently you and Nicola had an argument a few days before she passed. BG. What? No, we didn't. DC. Something that Sarah and Phil walked in on? BG. Sarah told you that? DS. We didn't say that. BG. I bet it was Phil, bastard. He was always jealous of Nicola and me. DC. Jealous of Nicola and you? Why was that? BG. Well, it's like I just said, we were friends for a long time. Phil didn't like competing with that. DS. And was he competing with that? BG. What do you mean? DS. Were you and Nicola something other than friends? Something more than that? BG. I'm married. DS. That's not what we're asking. BG. We were good friends, okay? DS. So if we asked your wife, asked your niece, would they say the same thing, that you and Nicola were just good friends? If we looked at your messages to Nicola on your phone right now, would they support your claim that you were just good friends? DC. I'm sorry, Ben, do you mind answering the question? BG. Look, we were together a while ago, okay, but not recently. DC. You mean you've been having an affair with Nicola? BG. It's not... Yes, technically yes, but it was over. DC. When did it end? BG. Years ago. DS. How many years, roughly? BG. God, look, I don't know, before Sarah was born and she's what, 23? So there you go, over 23 years ago. DS. But Nicola was married to Charlie at the time. BG. Yeah, she was, and I know what you're thinking, that makes us terrible people, but it was... Their relationship wasn't perfect, and we, DC, we're not thinking anything like that, Ben. We only care about finding out what happened to Nicola. So were you also married at this point? BG. No, I met Fiona much later, around 10 years ago. DC. So, between Sarah being born and you meeting Fiona, you never resumed the affair? BG. We didn't... It wasn't... Look, we might have got together a few times. You have to understand, Charlie and Nicola were so young when they got married, and I don't think either of them thought they were in the best marriage. They stayed together because of Sarah, I'm sure of it. DC. Nicola told you that? BG. She didn't have to tell me. I was there. But look, it ended when I married Fiona. Then Fiona and I had the girls. Charlie got ill and... We didn't start it up again. Not through all that. DC. All right. Ben, we found some flowers in Nicola's rubbish bin. Do you know who might have wanted to send her flowers? BG. What? I don't know. Phil, maybe? DC. So you didn't buy her flowers in the run-up to her death? BG. What? No, I don't know anything about any flowers. DC. Did Sarah know about the affair, Ben? BG. Sarah? I don't know. She never said anything to me if she did. Nicola was worried that she'd walked in on us, close, when she was younger, but I don't think she saw anything. Why? DC. Nicola left a message on Sarah's phone right before she died, saying she wanted to tell Sarah something. BG. What? And you think she wanted to tell her about me? I doubt it. DC. Can you think of anything else Nicola might have wanted to tell Sarah? BG. Jesus, I don't know. But it wouldn't make sense for Nicola to want to tell her about me now. She didn't want to start up again, so... DS. But you did. You wanted to resume the affair. BG. I don't know, but that's all irrelevant now, isn't it? DS. Does your wife know about you and Nicola? BG. We've never talked about it, but I've told you it was over before I met Fiona. DC. Yet you wanted to resume the affair recently, since Charlie passed away, perhaps? BG. That's not what I... Look, I've told you nothing actually happened. We didn't start up again. DS. Is that so? BG. Look, I know what you're thinking. DS. Do you now? BG. I would never have done anything to hurt Nicola. Never. I loved her. Chapter 22. I can't get out the car. I stay sitting where I'm parked on the gravel driveway, headlights switched off, behind Ben and Fiona's car. My mother's car is still here, too, a tiny beat-up car looking a little sad on the driveway, like it knows that no one will take it now that my mother is dead. I need to sort that out, I suppose. Another thing to add to the list. But for now I just stare at the house, faintly illuminated by the porch light. I didn't think it would be so hard coming here for the first time since she died. And now that I'm here, I find I don't want to see the annex after all. Don't want to speak to Ben or Fiona. Don't want to have to try to pretend in front of them. There's a knock on the passenger window, loud enough to make me jump. It's Fiona, her face paler than usual as she squints at me, wearing a big blue puffer jacket. She'd come from behind me rather than out of the house as I would have expected. I unstick my hands from the steering wheel and roll down the window. I've been sitting here without the engine running for at least 5 minutes, so it's not exactly hot in here, but the cool air I let in makes me shiver. The nights are definitely getting colder. Either that or I am. Sarah? She makes my name into a question, even though it's obviously me. Hi, I just came round to, well, see you, I guess. It's as close to the truth as I can get. The main reason I came round is to clear the air, to bridge the gulf I can feel widening between us the longer this goes on. But that sounds too awkward, calls attention to the fact that my mother was murdered right here and the police think it was one of us. Oh, I'm so glad you came. We've been so worried about you, my darling.
She shoves her hands in her coat pockets. I was just out walking, wanted to get some fresh air. Another pause, and I can't think of a single fucking thing to say. Do you want to come in? The girls would love to see you. Well, I drove all the way here, so I'm hardly going to say no, especially not when I do genuinely want to see Lily and Emily. Besides, this is the chance I wanted to get inside the house, because the police must surely be looking round it at some point. I get out the car and Fiona envelops me in a tight hug. I stand rigid for just the briefest of seconds, then allow my arms to creep around her too, resting my head on her squishy coat. She feels so strong, so solid, so unlike my mother was towards the end of her life. I'm so sorry, my darling, Fiona whispers, her breath hot on my exposed neck. So very sorry. It isn't fair. It's not fair at all. No, I breathe. It's not fair. None of this is fair. And that's partly why I don't ask whether Fiona is really sad now my mother is gone, or whether she thinks life will be just that bit easier without her. Because I know, even in the state I'm in right now, that I don't want to destroy things with Fiona after everything else I've lost. I know I'll regret it in the long run if I do give voice to the darker thoughts swirling around inside me. My throat is tight when she pulls away. Turns out it's Fiona, with her motherly concern, who can bring me the closest to breaking point. Come on, my darling, let's go inside and I'll make you a cup of tea. I grimace, thinking of the way my mother died, but do my best to straighten it out as I nod. Fiona unlocks the front door and ushers me inside. Lily, Emily, Sarah's here. There's a sound of little feet running down the stairs, and I look up to see Emily grinning as she leads the way. She launches herself at me and I pick her up and spin her around, making her giggle. Hello, Trouble. How are you? She grins. Trouble. She takes hold of my hand. Daddy bought us a castle. Do you want to see? A castle? No way. She nods in earnest, her eyes wide. It's in our room. I glance at Lily, who is standing by the banister, staring at me. I smile at her as I approach, dragging Emily with me. I prod her gently in the side, and she relents, giggling. I know I looked more like Lily, but I wonder briefly who I was more like. The loud, confident child, or the one hovering in the background, waiting to decide who to trust. Now there's no one left to ask. Except Ben, I suppose. But I don't want to ask him. Come up with us, Emily pleads. In a minute, I just want to get a drink first. Then you'll come up? Yes, I assure her. Emily seems satisfied because she races back up the stairs, past Lily, who stumbles after her big sister. Come on, let's get you a cup of tea, Fiona says, and though her voice is warm, I can sense the effort to make it so. She takes me through to the kitchen, but I insist on making her a drink, telling her, truthfully, that I need to stay busy. Do they know? I ask, keeping my voice low. I've told them she died, yes, she whispers. She doesn't need to add the rest, that she hasn't told them how exactly, hasn't told them that their aunt was murdered. They seem okay. The advantage of being the one busy in the kitchen means I don't have to look at her as she answers. Still I hear it, the strain this is all taking on her. I'm not sure they completely understand. Emily, I think, gets it, and they were sad when I told them. Sometimes they bring her up, like they're still trying to figure it out. But if not, I don't want to... It's okay, I get it. I wouldn't want them to have to know it all either. I cross the kitchen to the kettle, where it starts to bubble.
End of CD 6.